Hello!
Code the Yoshi with the 27-month tier 1 sub. Yay first?
Hello! Hello!
Ding dong, and we move on over to the chat room. There we are. Hello.
Not the chat room. Not the chat room.
Hi, we're here. Hello. Welcome.
Good day.
Good day, good day. Slightly raining outside at my window.
Go
It was
suck a lemon.
actually you go suck a lemon for yours. It was actually hailing like earlier on as well. It was
Oh, shit.
strong. Like I didn't think I would.
Did I send you the... Sorry, no, you first.
I know there's like a hurricane or a thunderstorm like very up north, and I'm south of Brisbane, so I was like real confused how I got like this spat of like just going off. So
Yeah, did I ever send you the video? It was pissing down rain here not too long ago, and the hail coming down. Like, oh my god, I was worried about getting a broken window.
Oh, yeah. I basically got a video, and I shared it with someone from work, because basically, like, I could normally I'm able to like see a palm tree and like these like line of houses like further back, but with this one it's like I could only barely see the palm tree and nothing else past it. So
Damn, my dude.
it was a little bit crazy with the amount, like the strength of it and how it was like blowing into my balcony and basically reaching to where the sliding doors were. So I
Yeah,
grabbed.
see if I can send you that video that I took.
All right, okay.
Oh, there it is.
While you do that, I am going to go get my my notes. So, because there's been some things I want to talk about. Some things you're not exactly in the loop for. You mentioned that you're kind of wondering about as well.
Yeah.
So, for those of you that are under like a metaphorical rock, about a day ago, or actually, yeah, about a day ago, like almost to this point, Twitch has updated their content guidelines where it was a little bit of the change was towards how sexual content was being shown on streams and what have you. And at the time, it was a case of don't show any boobies or anything like that. Don't show any genitalia, even accidental, even if it's like trying to be artistic, what have you. Before then, you weren't allowed any of that whatsoever, which was the obvious reason for why that is so then that way it was safer for advertisers to see, like, that the content on Twitch wouldn't be problematic for them.
Emotional damage.
Give me a minute, Icy. And since yesterday, however, that has changed. It's a bit of a lengthy, like, oh, how much has changed, but give me a minute to see if there's like a way to get like sort of the short of it. Also, no, hang on a second, hang on.
We are talking about TOS and very cute with stealing shit.
That's not supposed to be enabled.
Meow.
There is a number of things I have paused that seem to have been unpaused.
Oh no.
So I need to refund you that.
I don't think you can now that it's activated.
Pause. Actually, you know what? Just not enable them for full stop. I've been able. And then, hang on, there's another one that I need to. Here we are. Is that all of them? It should be. And then. Ding, ding, ding. No cake, no himbo, no shirt.
Yeah, I'm probably going to be removing the cake one from mine. My shirt remove, I'll leave because I still have my vest on, so that'll be fine.
So yeah, there will be an explanation.
It's only temporaries, people, until we can sort of...
Yeah, give me...
Situations. Well, we're hoping it's going to be temporary.
Shirt on. There we go. All right. So yeah, I need it. So yeah, because this is all to do with basically Twitch when they lightened their thingy-majiggy. So here, you wouldn't happen to listen to the band Aviators. No idea who they are. Moving on. So Twitch has updated their rulings on. Hang on a second. Let me see if I can find the thing. So let me see if I can find the original tweet.
I don't even think I saw
December
about this.
Here we go. So they gotten feedback about their policy. Basically, they did a tweet. You know what? It's probably best that I just
show the twiddle.
Show the twiddles. Turn on the thingy-majiggies, twiddles. Show the tweets. So, this is where we're at right now with the what's-moo-who's-y thingy-majiggy. Also, why is Why is Angrel and all them peeps still showing? Oh, that's intro fighters. There we go. Then we turn that off. So, they've gotten feedback that our policies around sexual content are unclear, so we've drawn clearer boundaries between what is and isn't permitted on Twitch. We recognize that not everyone wants to see certain content, so we're updating our criteria for homepage recommendations. So, and they did a blog post, and it was this whole ass thing. Hang on a second. Tune into, and then they had like a video called Patch Notes to explain further. But basically, it was an update to their policy on what is seen as sexual content and criteria for being on the homepage because of the change to sexual content. A lot is talked about here, but basically it's a case of what is previously banned but is now allowed in the adult themes is that content... Actually, let me zoom in as well. Content... Yeah. Prohibited but now allowed with a label is content that deliberately highlighted breasts, buttocks, or the pelvic region. Even when fully clothed, streamers found it difficult to determine what was prohibited and what was allowed, and often evaluated whether or not a stream violated this portion of the policy was subjective. In addition, the formerly sexually suggested content policy was out of line with industry standards and resulted in female-presenting streamers being disproportionately penalized. What they're talking about here is essentially... Actually, hold on, I need to crop the... What they were talking about here is that essentially they saw that the vague way that they prohibited the sexually suggested content was disproportionately affecting female streamers, whether IRL or VTubers, than it was like the male streamers. An obvious example of this is women could not have like cleavage or anything like that, whereas with men, as I had exploited at a time, they could just like be topless, and there was very little repercussion for male streamers and what have you, which is not like... when I first started using it, it was like kind of, I took it advantageously, but now I'm just sort of peeling back on that. They were being... So yeah. The second thing they introduced was that fictionalized, whether drawn, animated, or sculpted, of fully exposed female-presenting breasts and or genitalia or buttocks, regardless of gender. There's a thriving artist community on Twitch, and this policy was overtly punitive and did not reflect the impact of the content. So the next thing they adjusted was that if you were doing art, whether this was 2D, 2D, animation, or 3D, or maybe it was like clay or what have you, whatever your like platform for creative content was, it was now a little bit like laxed to now be able to do like, you know, artistic nudity and what have you. So things like having a naked sculpture but without, you know, massively presenting nipples. But now female presenting breasts and or genitalia and buttocks regardless of gender, that one is a little more available for artists. This is not meant for VTubers. They put this further, they explained this further in the patch notes video. They were talking about but avatars. So Kode, for example, and myself, we're avatars, and the idea with the avatars is they don't fall under this fictionalized drawing, animated, sculpting section of the suggested content. They fall under the attire content, which is we still need to be like dressed and, you know, decently presentable and such like that. We couldn't just make ourselves naked for the hellsies of it because of this fictionalized thing.
Or like, you know, if like, you know, with your shirt remove and stuff like that, if it's presented in a way that's not sexualized, then we could be possibly allowed to do it. But at the moment, there are a lot of people going around and going all like, oh, his shirt came off, ban him. Yeah.
So all of these changes were made, and like Kode and I haven't even gone through all of them. But basically the whole premise of this, you know, Twitch updating thingy-majiggy was like twofold. One, it was to remove the idea of like because Dextero, as much as I love them reporting on Twitch, one of the things that annoys me is this fucking this screen cap right here of Morg Pie or whatever their name is. This is essentially they did this change while the whole shirtless meta was going off, where it was like, oh, here's a woman who would have, female presenting breasts and what have you, but because they crop the camera before any of that nonsense, we don't have like the means of being able to argue whether or not they aren't dressed appropriately or what have you.
Because they could have a tank top under that.
Yeah.
Tank top.
Or like bikini at a bathtub or anything like that. So, like when this sexual content update was being done, it was going off during this topless meta backlash. So, and Dexerto, they report on the sexual content update as if it was, because of using a screen cap like this, and then there it is again. They make it seem like as if this sexual content update was in response to this, which I feel like it wasn't. I feel like this policy update was to something fucking months ago. Like, for example, I don't know how many people remember this, but a 3D artist got banned for like 3 to 7 days because they were working on a wireframe of a 3D model, and it was a female character, and because of the wireframe, like, upon the breast, they were banned for, like, a female presenting nipple. Which, back at that time, everyone was just sort of like, it's a wireframe. Sure, there's a bit of a density when you get to the female to the breast, but there's no nipple to look at or what have you. So so I feel like that was what the policy was responding to. Not to this fucking topless meta that was going off once they made the change, but to something weeks ago, because policy changes like these do not happen very fast. These are scrutinized over the human resources department and over legal department, quite frankly. They're not going to be changing policy within a day or two of something happening on the platform. They're going to be changing policy on something that's been going on for weeks. And for weeks, it's been an issue on how the hell do you deal with artistic nudity and shit like that.
I don't recommend anyone going to the art section at the moment on Twitch.
Yes. Because this change was done yesterday, and during that change... Actually, I should probably change myself to just chatting for a little bit, rather than the Baldur's Gate thingamadiggy.
I just had a look, and I'm just like, oh god, my eyes!
Ding dong. So, in this time, I actually have notes as well. In this time that we've had,
Why?
In this time that we've had the whole, what's-a-mahoozy thing of the, oh, you can now do, like, artistic nudity and what have you. Artists took that in stride, and the VTubing community took that in stride as well. Both of them tested the limits, which is, like, whether or not you're for or against is something that is going to happen when new policy comes in. You need to know, like, where the breaking point is and such like that. And normally with a good moderation team and maybe some automated rules and what have you, Twitch might have been able to, like, help incentivize people on, like, hey, you're banned for doing this, and, like, almost instantly or something like that. You're reprimanded for that. You're fine with this and that. Da-da-da. So someone did an image as well. I wish I could find it, but I don't think...
Someone posted a video just recently of a dude looking at an art furry stream as they're drawing, and let's just say they went lower.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see what was lower.
Yeah, so give me a second. So there is... Like, someone did a post where it was basically explaining of, like, okay, this is the kind of stuff that they are expecting you to present and what have you. I need to find this graphic really quickly while I'm explaining a little bit.
Have a look just at the art section, right? Just because I wanted to see what the big hubbub was. I took a look.
It's not that great.
More of this shit is not art. There are just women with really exposed outfits.
I'm getting to that.
Just flapping booty.
I'm doing a whole narrative to explain what's happened in the last 24 hours of this policy being put forward and such like that. Because what happened, like, basically 12 hours ago at this point is the fact that both artists and VTubers took this policy change and went running with it. They wanted to see what they can do, what wasn't allowed, and what have you. And during that time, oh boy, there were just bad actors in the thing. Actually, I'm gonna go back to the chat screen because I just realized I have, like, this zebra galaxy thingamajiggy behind me. There are a whole ton of problematic sort of things that happened during this time because, as I mentioned before, like VTubers and their attire were not exempt from the attire rule because of this not safe for work change that was made. So what ended up happening is you'd see, like you'll probably go on Twitter and you'll see this, but there's a number of VTubers that have been banned for like the nudity thing because they just simply left their avatar naked, which is essentially the same as leaving yourself naked, which is still against the policy. You're not supposed to do that and shit.
No.
So, and there was a number of them, and a lot of people, like, validly were upset by that movement of all these VTubers thinking, oh, I got a hall pass for being naked and such. That wasn't the point of the policy change. That was not the letter of the law. And then a number of them exploited that. Then we have artists, you know, doing the artistry and what have you. And some of them do go a little bit further than others, but I put that under the, you know, the expression of artistic nudity. So I don't really have a place to demand that what they drew who isn't art, like, for example, because like one of the big ones was let me see if I can find, where's my notes again? Here are my notes again. So one of them was GrantZeebs, a very popular artist streamer. They drew a grayscale sort of pose of a character, and there was male genitalia present. It wasn't highly detailed, and I don't think it was supposed to be the focus. They did get banned, furry cures. This is basically what happened. After VTubers fucking ruined it for artists, and artists were like artists were still in their, you know, applicable testing of the limits and what have you, and trying to, you know, go through the normal TOS, and because now they're allowed to do the artistic nudity and such like that. There was now this entire movement being done. What I don't know if it was bots or someone like coordinating for everyone to do this, but this is basically a problem that has existed before the TOS change, where basically Twitch has no good preventative measures against hate raids and bot like mass bot follows and what have you. They don't really have something like that. So what ended up happening during this TOS change is you had a whole ton of artist streamers who were now exercising their right in the use of the new TOS update, and they were getting banned. A shit ton of them were getting banned. Like, you get, there's like a Twitter account that mentions the partner streamers that get banned, but that's not the limit of it. There are other streamers that have gotten banned as well. And a few of the ones to get named that I put in my notes is Ball Buddy is a pretty big artist and is a partner streamer. They were banned because of drawing Michelangelo's David, because there was one with a leaf, another with like a small penis, and then there was like one that was crotchless, basically. That is Michelangelo's David, I would say, is under the artistic nudity, considering there's a fucking statue and everyone looks at Michelangelo's David and say, this is art. The next one that pops up on my list is Attack Rack. They drew a grayscale pinup where the person was topless featuring breasts. They did not have like highly detailed nipples like what I used to have. They just had relatively tame sort of nipples. They were marked for a 3-day ban because of what that was quoted on deliberately highlighted breast, buttocks / pelvis. And then GrantZeebs, as I mentioned earlier, they got banned because of the grayscale sketch that featured a persona that was nude. Nice flopping, always my favorite part. Hi there, Het. So yeah, and all of this has happened because at the start, it was a case of fuck around and find out because of the VTuber and artist community. And now we're in this like this second phase where, much like the French Revolution when cutting people's heads off, they're now going a bit extra right now and going a little bit too far. There are people...
Just a little bit.
Yeah, which is why... What, is this about the artistic? Yes, it is. Which is why there isn't a hyper-himbo, de-himboing shirt stolen cake cam or himbo cam enabled on my stream right now, because quite frankly, I don't want to get the wrath of whatever bot accounts or whatever streamer with a high follower is looking at me right now and thinking, this zebra's up to something, he's gonna fuck up, and he's being scandalous and sexual. Like, I don't want to get that wrath on my stream and shit like that, especially at the point that I am now in this as my hobby and what have you. And Code, you're pretty much in the same sort of thing, right? You've turned that kind of stuff?
I'm going to be removing the butt camera for the time being.
Hmm.
My shirt remove, probably I might keep for the time being, even though I still have a vest on.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that I'm probably a little bit safe with that.
Yeah.
But... Oh, excuse me, sorry.
Bless you.
But I may remove it in the future if it becomes problematic.
Sorry, just not rethink that message. So this entire situation, it's not going to get done by the time the weekend is over, because right now it's only just hit Friday for America. We're going to get another day of this kind of nonsense, and it's going to be a mix of, you know, VTubers or artists that are going to test the limits, fuck around and find out, but then there's also going to be artists and VTubers who are going to get hate rated. They're going to have mass reporting done to them despite following within the current rules of the TOS that is being presented to them. Yeah. Where this is just problematic. There is no one that is just going to be absolved completely. Like VTubers, we're gonna have those that are exemplars, and we're gonna have those of bad actors. Artists are gonna have exemplars, and they're gonna have those of bad actors. And the reason for these problems is because Twitch has not solved like a lot of the problems that we're having today, which is hate raids, mass reporting, and whoever decides to be like, hey, I wanna like, you know, make this person's life miserable. I want you to go to this channel and report it. We did not have any of those problems solved, and during this whole shirtless meta, where Twitch probably needed like another day or two cooking with their guidelines and updating their UI and UX, we've had this change go off. And as
what Twitch really need to do is add in an actual 18 plus section, or at least a, you know, kids can't go past this point section.
What Twitch needed to do, and they should have done this before the before they did the thingamadiggy update. Hi there, Xerix. Is they needed to have done a better job of how the homepage and how channels are recommended to you preview and thumbnail wise. So if I go back to this is the front page of Twitch for me. Like, you have your carousel, then you have your, you know, recommended tag and ag. So for example, I get VTubers, and then I get this thing called Together for recap, which I think is talking about the annual recap, and it's like whoever is going through them right now. Categories, and then you have like the intention of the TOS update was that you wouldn't get like, you know, not safe for work nonsense like along this front page if you were signed in, but clearly that's not the case because of, I can see this one here being a problem. If I open a Control-Shift-N, if I open a new like incognito window.
Alright, nice. I got my play rough now.
Alrighty. So you get like, you know, you're on the left here. It's like, oh, here are some streamers we recommend. Every single one of them fucking partner and, you know, well and above like the needing my viewership to help them. And if we go into categories, so it gives us like the top categories right now. And let's see, what's just chatting? Twerking, VTuber looking at stuff, VTuber looking at stuff, Yawcast. So proper big ones. What in the... Oh, there's the fucking... Sexual policy change there. Weirdies. I don't know what's going on there. And then the art category has dropped significantly. Normally would be like sort of first or second. It would normally be around here. What is... Oh, recommended for me. That's why. Viewers, high to low. Grand Theft, Rust, Dota, League, War.
So it is looking like the art section's picked up a little bit because of this
The art section,
whole thing.
probably for the worst, though.
That's why I'm saying to everyone, I recommend not jumping into the art section at the moment.
1, 2, 3.
Just because, yeah,
It's-
going further down, I would not recommend at the moment.
Because the problem that's happening here is something that was a problem before the TOS change, and that is... And I'm probably ran into this problem like a few times, like accidentally myself, but that is streams that are miscategorized. A twerk off is not all art. It is like the letter of this art category is meant to be something like Usury is doing there, or Void Hound is doing up there, which is that they're, you know, drawing
something,
animating, or what have you, not just running a fucking video, or this ASMR that looks to be going off right here. So
ASMR is not art, it's annoying.
Yeah, and they've made an entirely new catalog for ASMR as well, and then much like how they did the hot tub thing, getting its own. Doesn't the policy change only apply to making art? Yeah, it's only supposed to apply to making art. That was the whole letter of the TOS change. People are going to fully abuse the policy. Yeah, which is annoying, because the people that are going to have a problem... Also, I didn't realize virtual casinos was going to be there. I thought they banned gambling.
No idea.
What in the world? Why is there... I thought they... Hang on. Twitch gambling. October 19th, 2022. Starting October 18th, further attending to prohibit any streams of listed sites that contain slots, roulette, and dice games and are unlicensed in the U.S. and other jurisdictions that offer consumer protections like deposit limits, waiting period, At launch, prohibited sites will include state.com roll. Okay, so basically it was a case of gambling is still technically allowed on Twitch, just so long as it's American. So, not really as fanged as I thought. I thought it just stopped all gambling.
Anyway, do we want to move into some Baldur's Gate?
Yeah, I'm angry. I'll probably pick up on a thing or two about this TOS thing, because there are just some bad actors in how they argue about this kind of stuff. Hi there, Masonic! Alright, where is my Baldur's Gate? There's my Baldur's Gate. Sources, turn off the main desktop, turn on the PC capture.
Actually, I had to quickly update Baldur's Gate just then.
Oh, no. Oh, I have to update mine, too. What in the world? When did that happen?
No.
When did they start updating things while we're in the middle of a stream?
Apparently there's a patch 5 out.
No, the patch 5 already came out for us.
No, it's something about it today, a hotfix or something.
Oh, that's not great.
Mac players! Oh, yay!
Oh, yay.
If you're playing on a Mac right now, just end it all.
Mm-hmm. No, don't end it all. They're fine.
Well, I mean, end your computer. You know, just that's your Mac.
Switch it off. Move on to a different game entirely.
Oh, Boo will no longer take damage when thrown. Who's throwing the hamster?
Anyone that uses Minsk, and because like the throwing hamster thing that's just a quintessential like go for the eyes, Boo.
Oh, I know, but who's throwing the hamsters in a way that's going to hurt the hamster?
I think it's the case that it's just being thrown full stop. Like if it hits a person or an area.
You throw my hamster really meanly and I will be very upsetty. Also, I'm not Grandpa Onyx.
Wait, are you streaming right now?
No, Onyx is in your chat.
Oh. I've not... I want to find the CEO. I show my whole footage. No, Furry Cures. I am just gonna time you
No,
out.
thank you.
I understand your frustration, Furry Cures, mate.
But
Some of
don't
these
be inciting this
comments
shit.
aren't helping.
It.
I mean, I for one have a long list of people I would put my size 12 boot up of, but
We're not.
we don't go inciting it.
Yeah, I'm not for that. So.
I mean, I'm like Sheldon. I've got that list.
Nice. Dink, swipe, swipe.
So I
There we
actually
go.
just picked up some new headphones today too.
Oh, what did you get?
So I picked up. It's from it's Atrix, Atrix.
Still
So I picked
breathing.
them up from
despite
EV
everything.
Games. There were a $99 set of wireless headphones. I was a little bit skeptical about them at first, being that they were wireless at $99 and being gaming headphones. But I'm like, at this point, anything's better than the shitty pair of Logitechs I've got to keep dying in the
path
middle
lies
of
before me.
everything.
Ah, okay. Okay,
So
so
they're supposed to have a 20-hour battery length.
did we want to long rest here, or?
I think we did want a long rest before we headed off. Let me just put that box. Let me just.
Alright. Gonna head off for a bit, just wrap up for the day. Hope you both have a great stream. Hopefully you have a good evening, Angrel. Me and Code, we'll be okay. We'll be fine. We're gonna be playing
You
some
have a
Baldur's
good one,
Gate.
mate. Also, Angrel, you and I, Remnant 2 sometime soon.
And that means I can also change this thing over to Baldur's Gate 3 again. Hit done. There we go.
Yeah, so these here, they've got gel ear pads,
Uh-huh.
retractable mic, metallic painted decor, rings, on-ear volume, which actually has been really good. I've actually had to turn down the volume on these ones just because they were actually quite loud, to be quite
Okay.
frank. Passive noise cancellation, 2.4 gigahertz wireless, and they work for pretty much most consoles.
Awesome.
So, and for $99,
Oh.
they're actually not bad. Oh, what happened?
Halcyon,
What
it
did
said
you do?
Halcyon failed twisting. Oh, because there's twisting vines in our camp for whatever reason.
Oh yeah, why the fuck are these here?
Yep. Alrighty, I am going to exit the camp.
Yep, I've got Daddy Halcyon with me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he also lost his summons too.
Oh yeah, because we did the long rest.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so
So
Her
we'll bring up
most
his
sacred
summons.
path.
So we did that one. We got to go over to the next one because we had to.
yeah, we're going
go-
through the different trials. And I had an idea for this one with the combat
Quiet.
things.
Move with care.
Oh yeah, take off
Wonder
all
if
of
the
our
gods
shit.
are watching
Yeah.
me.
I'll forego summoning that just now, just because I'm not sure if those summons are going to be detrimental or annoying to us.
Yeah. I don't
So
I don't
we'll
think
go-
they when we were playing last time, I don't think they had the summons when they got us.
Her
Hi, De-
most hallowed mercy.
Hi Decus. Alright, let's open this.
I wonder what the next move is.
Alright. Unequipped.
My internet crashed. Yay!
Oh no. Alrighty, this will all make sense, chat, I swear.
We're not making them naked for
Dekus.
the sake of naked.
Yeah, we're
No time to waste.
this is a strategy.
Hey Dekus, how you doing? Also, Grant,
I'm
you might
seeing
want
as
to
I
wait
was
to bring me
taught.
back over because I'm still fully clothed.
Yep. Let me just invite you again. Decus. 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 Decus, 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 Decus.
Don't worry, I get Dekus's name wrong a lot too. I'm sorry, Dekus. I love you, man. Homies for life.
Homies for life. How you doing? You doing alright? I'm gonna give them a shout out while I'm waiting for you to strip down and get ready for the mimic fight.
Oh yeah, let me strip, baby. You know they're still gonna have spells, right?
Yes, but let's be real, they're gonna have a really, really low AC.
Another bowl bearing the stains of an ancient blood offering. Another of Lady Shah's trials that her
I don't know,
initiates
my
must
guy
face.
still has AC
This
of,
one would
you know,
challenge their combat
15
prowess.
without it.
As opposed to an AC of what?
Probably about 20.
Yeah. Now the question is,
Teaches us that we are our own worst enemy much of the time. Her embrace will elude us until we shed that which holds us back.
Got to keep
Alrighty.
moving.
Do we want to F5 it quickly?
Alright, I'll F5 here. Here we go.
So I'll go up the left since mine seemed to have spawned up here last time.
So yeah, because they spawned like up there. So you're gonna go up the left?
It's like an ambush.
Ooh. Ah! Hey, look at that! He's naked. And he's... Oh, he must still have a bow and arrow because I think...
All's well that ends.
Oh my god, my guy still had a bow and arrow. That's why he's using it.
Alright, do we want to put on our clothes then since we know they're naked?
Can we see any
you can
others?
see yours. No. But we can see Durkin.
We can see Durkin. I see yours here. What was it?
Yep, I see me.
Yep. Okay. Oh! Yep, alright, and then Shadowheart is up at the cauldron. You can't see it because it thinks we're here.
Oh, no,
Where's...
I see ya. I see ya.
Alright, so where's Halson? Alrighty, I'm gonna see what happens when I dress my character up again.
No, never mind.
Yeah, put some gear on. We'll see what happens.
Yep. And then I was Cat's Cloth. And then the Hell's Husk thingies.
Nope, he's not dressing.
Yes! There we go. Alright, and then I grab that. Alrighty.
Alright, let's throw on.
Let's get our attires. Alright, she had the Dark Justicar's thingy-madig.
Look at that. Grant is smart.
Of course I'm smart. And then she had the half plate.
Oh, Grant, we do have to question sometimes.
Sometimes. Only sometimes. Alright, what's aid and comfort? When it heals, it gains a temporary... Yep. And then... when scoring a critical hit on a humanoid, the weir can paralyze the target for 2 turns. I'm going to...
Halson's not proficient medium armor.
Oh, that's not great.
So I'm going to take those off of him for now.
Shifting corpus. Which of the rings did I give her?
Oh, no. Never mind. Yes, he is. Why did it say it wasn't for
Characters that are illuminated sounds appropriate for her. And then I'll give her the thingy-majiggy of jumping. You get... No, not that mace. The blood of Lathandar. And then the really big shield. Then... hunting short bow. There we go. Wait, what was these things? Oh, when you heal a creature, it deals... It gains a 1d4 bonus. Oh, okay, so that's the one I gave her. Okay. So we'll give her that ring instead of the jumping one.
Menthols.
At least things have stayed
Hey,
interesting.
Onyx, how you doing?
Alrighty, and then mine was...
Oh, sorry, butterscotch, not butter menthols. Who doesn't love some good butterscotch?
I can take it or leave it. Can see in the dark.
Love me some good butterscotch. You know, it's got to be good quality though, like the Werther's Originals butterscotch.
I have no idea what that stuff is like. Alright.
It's really good. I recommend trying it out.
Alrighty, I am going to see how we do with trying to stealth our way up across the right.
Yep, I'll wait here and be ready to advance on the left. Because now I know I'm on the left. Most likely the other Halson's on the right.
Yep, there's a house on my side. They're waiting to ambush. I'm gonna see if I can do a long trek behind. Because I can see the little red there. Nice work with Halsin's, like, perception check, because we all failed it except for Halsin.
I mean, Halsin is, you know, a druid. Perception is probably a big part of their thing.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty, I am going to ungroup us.
Secrecy above.
So she will go. So she's gonna be over here.
Does this count as
And
adventure?
then
Alright, I'm waiting just outside my my shadow's field of view.
alrighty.
Mission has to come first.
Oh, if Halsin's over there,
I'll take on Halsin because he's got quite a bit of health and you set. And if
you
I
can't attack your own. You can't attack.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah, alright. I'm gonna move. So yes, Shadowheart is
Don't
up
make a
there.
move just yet until I can bring my Halsin down.
Alrighty then. So okay, so yeah, because my guy is up here on the higher ground. Your Halsin is down here at the stairs where my character's at. So you wanna Alright, I am going to move Shadowheart over to the left then. You bring Halsin over.
Yep.
Alrighty. Oh, do you wanna you can attack him from behind, you know.
That's where I'm going.
You can do that like right now. There's like a huge ass path. Like, follow Shadowheart. You'll not be in the red when you do this. And
What happened?
it said you left the game.
Oh, god damn it. My internet keeps on fucking me over at the moment.
Are you having rain or some thingamadoog problems?
No, I think it's just because of the heat. Because my NBN box is in the shed.
What's it doing in the shed?
Because that's where they put it in the house.
Wait. You're talking about the box that's that, like the fiber to the fiber optic box, or the HT something or other?
The fiber to the premises.
Ah, okay. All right. No, that makes it a little bit more sense. All right. Okay, looks like Halsin. Yep, Halsin's there. All right, I'm gonna have Shadowheart go the long way.
Don't forget my dragon's there too.
Yeah, so, because I reckon... Okay, so the Dragonborn's got 40, Dwarf has 50, Shadowheart's got 40. Alright, so...
Because I can't be surprised, I can jump straight up and go at him.
Yeah, but if you can just be right where Shadowheart is...
Alright, I'll sneak around.
Alrighty then. Cookie for YY! Where is the hello notification? It's only when you do hello, like...
Hello!
Frank Water from National Tiles.
Frank Water from National
Hello!
Tiles! Come and get your tiles! They're from National Tiles.
Alrighty.
Frank Water. Tiles!
Tiles. Alrighty, so...
I can't really do the nasally, you know...
No, that's fair, that's fair, that's fair. Alright, so do you want to make it so that both you and like, we'll turn on turn-based when you get, like, real close. But basically, we turn on turn-based, you hit your Dragonborn, Orn, Halsin hits Halsin, leaving me to be able to try and run up to where,
Well, that's the thing. Once we hit combat, it'll probably put us in a turn base anyway.
But, yeah, so... Alright, I'm going to turn on turn-based, because we're basically all close to be able to do the engagement in combat. Alright, so you do yours first.
Alright, let's see. If I get close enough... Blazing Hands is level 5. It's gonna hurt your ass!
Let's see. Nice. Alright, so you got Fire Infusion. Alrighty, and then I am going to engage...
Let's get this over with.
My guy.
I blinded him too.
Nice work. Luck of the Realms. Critical hitting him for about half his health. And then there's our Shadowheart. Okay, so she can't move. And then hit him again.
I
It
basically
misses.
came right up to his bum and said, "Hello, you're on fire now."
Alright, bleeding. They're immune to necrotic damage. Alright. Oh! He just fucking disappeared and used hasten. Alright, I'm gonna have her move past your... Yep, doesn't do an attack of thingamadoogie for them.
I forgot to have my house and join the fight.
Oh, you...
He now joined.
Alrighty, encase your shelf of magic, increasing your armor class. Yes. Gonna act.
My house was still sneaky.
Nah. Silence aura is not a problem for me. Alright, where'd your Dragonborn go?
That's a very good question.
There he is. And then up, there's the flaming spear.
Oh, they go into darkness. They can't be seen.
No. Alright.
This is gonna make killing them a bit problematic.
Just a little bit. But if we can move into the light, we should be okay. So... If you send oh hello, it won't work. No, if you send oh hello, it won't work because it isn't hello. Alrighty, let's see how we do. There we go. My dwarf is dead. Alrighty.
I don't see mine.
Gonna move up
Find a
here.
way forward.
And then...
Keeping my ass safe with mirror image is probably the best option I've got.
Alright, I'm gonna see what happens if I hit Shadowheart with my dwarf, okay?
Oh, I didn't notice this, but if you look to your left, where your little portrait is, there's actually all your buffs and debuffs there, just on the left of your portrait there. Which
What, you didn't...
Look at.
You didn't know that?
I did not notice that.
It's been there ever since the Goblin Camp when we did bonuses.
I himboed out on that one, okay?
What do you mean you himboed out? You're not the himbo in this party.
Hi, Dekus. I see you. Thank you for the hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Alright, I'm gonna see what happens when I fire with... Okay, survives the saving throw.
Remember, you can't kill her. She has to die by her hand.
Okay, then. And once again, another miss. Oh. Can't cast spells because we're silenced. That's fine. You got any idea where this is?
I don't know where Invisible House or Invisible Me went to.
They'll have to be close.
But they'll pop up the second they realize that they're,
Yeah. Seems...
I figured bear form's probably not a bad idea.
Just remember you're in a cone of silence.
Yeah, don't need to be silenced to whoop your ass.
Ah, there he is.
There he goes.
Oh. How the fuck can he turn in...
Need to act fast. Let's do this.
Okay, I thought that would help. But
There we go. Radiating orb. Cannot be moved by force. Too heavy to shove. Alrighty,
Still breathing, despite everything.
Some familiar scratch. Don't...
I think we need to get them up towards the light up here where this brazier is.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think if I have any thingy-madiggies that might, like, shine a bright light, but I don't think I do.
Oh wait, I've got dancing light.
That would be helpful.
Wait, hang on, I might have a scroll of dancing light.
Okay,
Keep it in my inventory. I can't open because it's not my turn.
Ooh. Arcane interference. Oh, that doesn't do it.
No, I don't have any scrolls of dancing light.
Alrighty then. It is your turn, by the by.
Now it's not.
Shoot faith. Alrighty. Okay, there's little markers. Oh, there's a flaming spear there. I forgot it's still the flaming spear is in the thingamadig.
Yeah.
That's a little funny. Alright, so she's got 7. Oh! Where's the Dragonborn?
There he is. Don't you move, oh, bastard.
God damn it. They're just fucking disappearing whenever the fuck they want it, don't they? Alrighty. Flaming spear is doing their thing. Oh, it's rolling up behind you is what it's doing. Alrighty,
Concentrate.
let's see.
Haha!
Concentration broken. Oh, you found him?
Dancing light revealed Halsin's location.
Hey, there's Halsin. Alrighty then.
Can't afford to let up.
Oh, the temptation do 60. Fuck it, we ballin'. She's lost the condition, self-same trial.
Which means she's completed it, which means she's not under the effect.
Has created this as a test. If it attacks a reflection that is not their own, it incurs Cheater's Folly. What is Cheater's Folly? Affected entities has all ability scores reduced by 1 for attacking a reflection that's not their own. This effect can be applied thrice more. Okay. So, yeah, so she can do thingamadiggies, but not everyone else. Heal someone they could see.
You can as well, because you're no longer under the ability.
Yep.
Time to push my luck again.
Alrighty. I'm gonna drop down here.
Try and keep him from running.
Yep. Alright, your Dragonborn is somewhere up there. Cookie for the bookie!
Let's just say he came into the light.
Alrighty then. So there's Halsin. Nice! Now we just have to deal with yours.
Can't slow.
Wait. Before you hit them, how much health?
24.
Okay, I was gonna say, like, maybe have me or Shadowheart do at least a little bit of damage, so then that way you might be able to still do a finishing blow.
Can you attack quickly?
I can't attack while you're... There we go. Alright.
That's alright. I can always quicken a spell.
Mm-hmm.
And then do it again!
Again! Yay! And we get ourselves a funky orb.
Can't afford to stay idle. What do we have here?
A temple dedicated to Shah. More than a temple, perhaps. A proving ground. This must
You
be
just
where
wanted to talk
Ketheric
to
Thorn
Daddy,
grew
didn't
his
you?
dark cloak.
Oh no, I wanted to see if we could talk to him while he
No
was...
time to waste.
I wanted to see if we could talk to him while he was a bear.
Oh, no.
Okay, is there anything here that we would have... Oh wait, Killer's Sweetheart.
Where do you see that?
On the floor, near the skeleton. Near the brazier.
Oh.
Let's see what we have here.
Wait, that's the umbral transponder.
Find something useful.
And then there's the skeleton. Can you, like, ping it?
Better, I'll pick it up.
What is Killer's
see.
Sweetheart?
Executioner, when you kill a creature, your next attack roll will be a critical hit. Once spent, this effect refreshes after a long rest.
I missed that. Alright, I'm gonna just use this umbral.
Here, I'm gonna send it to you.
Mees?
Yes, use. I sent it over to use.
Alright, you can use the umbral teleporter to be able to do the, like, teleport quickly here to... When you kill a creature, it will be a critical hit once spent. This effect refreshes after a long rest. Neat.
Okay, so I'm guessing it's on to the next one?
Yep.
With haste.
Do we want a short rest after that?
I'm fine. You're not?
Nah, potion should do the job.
Alrighty then. We're finally getting a storm. Hey, nice.
Haunted treasure.
I got a little bit of a storm as well, like at my place, and we got hail. Ooh.
It's been a bit cloudy here, but I haven't seen any sort of storms.
This one might be some stealthy nonsense.
I'm ready. Whatever it takes.
I'm gonna F5 this.
It's like some sort of
My faith will
maze.
guide me.
Worth a try.
Another bowl
I'm guessing we
bearing
each
the
have to take
stains of an
a path?
ancient blood offering.
Maybe.
Another trial for Lady Shah's initiates. This one would put their skills of stealth and infiltration to the test.
Alright. Shouldn't be impossible to do. We offer Lady Shar our blood. Vroom. And once again, she does a lot of bleeding, rather than just doing the fucking Attack on Titan bite your thumb.
Values those that can remain unseen and can still obtain what they want. Stealth is a virtue derived from her very
Okay, so there's a shadow there.
Better tread carefully.
Oh wait, she has, Cloak of... Hang on.
Unseen. Perfect.
Give me a second. There's a better ring she can wear. There we go. And then... Where is it? She should be able to just turn invisible.
Oh, hang on. I've got a potion of invisibility.
Well, I have a ring that would have given it. I am absolutely correct in my usage of the, in the usage. So,
Okay.
watch this shit as she...
It's looking like there's a switch over
Looks like a
here.
trap there.
So there's a lever there that we most likely need to pull.
You've got a shadow coming down to you.
Yeah, no, I see it,
Something over there.
Reese.
Psst. The shadow does not see me.
Child of the Night Singer embraces the shadows.
You ran out of stealth, didn't you?
She tripped the fuck over.
Got to try again. Be seen this time. No time to dally.
Because you can't cast spells.
And if I take an action like pulling a lever...
Keep low and quiet.
Your potion just ran out, didn't it?
Nah, it was like she's no longer obscured or some shit, so... Oh.
Child of the Night Singer.
So wait, what did that do? It
Oh,
pulled...
you could trap the shadow between that area.
Oh! Well, now comes the new problem. How do I...
F8.
Oh, no. Now there's, like, this,
Got to press on.
this section here. Watch as she falls over again, and that's gonna be the reason she...
Calm and quiet. That's the way.
Alright, I'm F-heading.
I'm like, wait, what happened just then? I thought for a second I crashed again.
No, this is me reloading. I'm F-hating. Wait, was there an advertisement for people? Just
It
then?
was.
Okay. Okay. I guess I wasn't paying attention very well.
Damn, you gulp loudly. That's kind of
Whatever
hot.
comes.
That's kind of the point. So then that way people know when I'm drinking.
Another trial for Lady Shazin.
Alright, here we go. Alrighty. Now, I'm gonna put on the invisibility ring again, that my character had. Because I've got both invisibility and blur.
Hang on, I might be able to give you a few invisibility scrolls too.
That would actually be helpful.
Let's see.
Go
Scroll
suck a
of
lemon.
invisibility. Give it to her.
Thank you.
That's the only one I've got.
So that will do it for 10 turns.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty.
Okay, that's it. I'm gonna spit in your mouth.
Calm yourself down, furry cures.
Onward.
Alrighty.
You're following her. You might wanna...
Mustn't let anyone see.
The shadows
I see a way.
and passes unseen.
Alright, wait for it to come back. Now.
There we go.
Boom, baby.
Nice. What's this button do? Oh, nice.
Trap.
Crap, it just went through another door. That was the only thing.
That's okay. I still have my invisibility. But I'm going to need... I'm gonna F5 this.
I see another...
Worth locking. Worth opening.
Dexterity +1, guidance. Here we go. Oh! Yes!
Oh, that's a just...
Rolled a 6, got +1 because of the dexterity, and I got +3 from guidance.
Ooh, that's a just... Did we do it?
Yep. We got the orb, it turned on the lights around here, she got inspired for it. Oh, so much. Oh, look at... Oh, that one honestly was a fun one. Nice. Granted, it took us one... Oh, and here's another, lever. What does this do? Ah, it opens this gate here. So we would have still needed to use that button, it seems. And then... There's the... Oh! The soft step trial key is right fucking here.
Unnoticed. Good.
How is she there? Oh.
Well, you're now stuck forever there.
No, it's fine, it's fine. Oh, so she had to move... She would have to move these things down anyway in order to... Alright, let's see what happens. Can she get herself out from this?
You're welcome.
Better be cautious.
Alright, let's see how she does. Oh, clicks the trap. Falls over on the grease. Fails the grease. Get up. There we go.
Get up, you greasy bitch. Alright, so we've got one more to do, don't we?
Yep. So there's another lever there. But I don't think that does anything. And then we have a ghoul scout here. What? Orders from B. Pay close attention. Seek the means to access the relic. Search in the library. Do not deviate. Do not fail. return promptly. B.
So we need to find the library, which probably up.
We already did the relic and all that kind of thing, as I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure that was us, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think we passed the Gauntlet of Shah.
So we had like the 3 different thingamadooks. And I betcha it's to be used in this altar here, the umbral thingamadooks.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
For some reason, my dwarf was like, "Oh, we're not gonna walk around. We're gonna climb over things."
So many must have toiled to make a visage so grand.
Ooh.
It's beautiful.
Hang on.
No use. Not right now, at least.
That's not going to
Vericures
work.
1221 paid me to say code. You still
All right.
stinky.
Can we put the umbral orb? I'm gonna F5 this. Can we put the umbral orb in here?
Hey, it works!
Hey!
Wait.
So it looks like there's 2 points of travel. There's to the left and then there's to the right.
You detect the gentlest of presences disturbing the temple's ancient, stale air. It seems to encircle Shadowheart, welcoming her.
I feel something. A presence. What was it?
Shah's presence. I felt her too. We're right where we need to be, under her gaze. This is the right path. Let's continue.
You know what I just realized? Cults are gonna be like way crazier of a thing to deal with, because it's like, oh, the crazy ass god you're praying to and such might very well be real. There's none of this, oh, that's hokey religion nonsense. Alright, so we got 2 different kind of gems. Alright.
Bonk me for you as I bonk you right back.
Net.
That disc is moving. Might be useful to navigate this place.
Alright.
However the hell we're supposed to do that.
So yeah, because there was only like one thing. Ooh! How come your bonk didn't work? Because I think it's only for moderators. Is that also... It probably is also a subscriber thing. Alright. Another umbral thingy-majiggy, I imagine?
Probably.
Oh, we need...
3. Oh, hang on. Hang on. Dingo had one at his little,
What thingo?
The red demon dude. He had the one that you tried to steal earlier.
Oh, okay.
Maybe we can try asking him for it.
Sounds good.
If not, we'll just try to have to be stealthy about stealing it.
There is a ring you can get that gives you an increase to sleight of hand.
You're still stinky, Code. Well, you're still,
Don't ban. Don't time him out or anything like that. That'll be petty.
Timed out.
Give up now.
Nah, you're still good, Furry. You're so good.
I'm not that mean, Furry Qers. I'm not that mean.
But you could be that
Grant,
petty.
on the other hand.
Oh, absolutely. I need to learn to, like, you know, do vibe checks more often on peeps.
I've checked your vibe. Your vibe has failed. I'm sorry. Your vibe has failed. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200.
Yeah, we've checked the vibe. Alright, so... The orb was with a demon, you said? Oh, there it is.
Down here. Yep, told you.
You're right, okay.
I'm always right, except when I'm wrong. But I never admit that.
Alright, so... Alrighty, let's talk to him.
Don't outright steal it. Talk to him and see if he can
You're
get it off.
supposed to be searching these ruins, little rabbit. Given up already?
Hardly. I already found a necromancer Balthazar elsewhere in the temple. Perhaps he's the one you need to kill. Any suggestions on where to look? Just getting my bearings. It's confronting.
I caught the scent of that bloated carcass already. He's no more alive than the dark justiciars down here. He is not the answer. He is not my prey.
Alright.
You're gonna have to be a stealthy bitch and take it.
Yeah, but he's like right fucking there, isn't he?
What the hell has been happening here?
Can you, well. Alrighty.
Have to keep low.
You're supposed to be searching these ruins, little rabbit. Given up already?
Just leave.
Suggestions. I suggest you think twice before pestering me, or our truce may end prematurely.
I'd advise getting out of that area because I'm gonna use a scroll of invisibility with Shadowheart. So
Need to tread softly.
So if you pick it up, he might see and start attacking.
mm-hmm.
What do we have here?
That's why I'm like going the invisible route. Because when you're invisible, it's just an instant win.
Be ready. I'll kill you myself.
Here we go, here we go, here we go. And
The last one.
Form up right!
alright. We might need to like look at the barrier or something like that and be like, ooh, we need to do something with this. Or talk to the necromancer a little bit more.
How do you...
Because that was like the last Umbral thing. We need to get it. There's gotta... We'll figure this out. Where there is a will, there is a way, and we will do it without killing the demon. My moral compass is weird. I will steal wherever the fuck I want, but I am not going to kill people for... but I'm not gonna kill people for the shit. Alrighty, I'm gonna talk to this hoarder again. Show me what you got. Show me what you got. Alright. Sell. Barter. Alright, let's see what happens.
Unless we can find a way for him to give it to us, maybe we hunt down that remaining Justicia. Dude, are we sure we did all the Gauntlet of Shah stuff?
Yeah, because she even mentions, like, that's the last one when I picked it up, so...
Chambers of Penance.
Because, like, that's a chamber and what have you. Then there's a stone door down there, but I don't know how we're supposed to get down. Oh, maybe there is a... Maybe there is a way of getting down. Hang on a second. Looks like there is. Alright, hang on a sec. She needs to jump.
Hold up, let me give everyone Feather Fall.
Alright, let's... Well, we don't have that big of a drop. It's...
Always better safer than sorrier.
Is it at this case? Don't forget, Featherfall has a limit. Or, like, a turn thingamadiggy.
I think we still need to go through the remaining trials. I think that's our problem.
Yeah. Alright, stairway there. There's nothing here. Just a whole ton of dead peeps. Zealot of the Absolute. Plate armor. Amulet of the Absolute. Instructions from B. Investigate strange singing. Ascertain any connection to the relic. Do not deviate. Do not fail. Alright. So, Balthazar is B, obviously. Alright, so there's nothing more here. Yeah, see, now we've lost Feather Falling. Because there was a giant stone door there I wanted to try and get to. And it looks like we've got like a hoppy way to get there.
Hang on. Back.
And then give us all jump.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
My faith protects me.
There we go.
Let's try this way.
And then is Halfson following us?
Mm-hmm.
A random candle? And a mirror.
The mirrors here seem to not reflect light, but devour it.
Another step forward.
Nice!
The mirrors here seem to not reflect light, but
Did that
devour
open up
it.
when I did the mirror?
No, I opened the door. I literally just clicked on it and it opened. Reflections upon the Mirror of Loss. The original purpose of the sacred mirror has been lost to the ages. Some suppose that it was the results of Telement Thanthal's attempt to delve into the Shadowfell itself. In the time before the folly of this master Karsus, others...
Consuming magic. But it's shattered now.
I'm guessing they're talking about... Could you let me, like, read the rest of the book, please?
No.
In the time before the folly of his master Karsus, others claim it only became an object of devotion after the fall of the Netheril, when the lost-stricken survivors of the floating cities found comfort in Lady Shar's embrace. What is certain is that many of the Night Singer's faithful claim to feel some echo of her power and majesty when in the presence of the mirror. Even though it is shattered, they are often said to feel lesser when they step away from the mirror. Hence the name it has become commonly known by. Our scholars continue to study it, but alas, its true nature may continue to elude us. Perhaps if the Dark Lady indulges us, she shall reveal another of these holy relics for us, so that we may feel the full power of her embrace.
Wits and blades, always sharp.
Basically, they're asking someone Shard to give them a handout.
The mirror is shattered and beyond any use.
Shouldn't be the
In darkness, truth. In shadows, justice. In the Dark Lady's name. Always.
Where did you read that?
In darkness, truth. In shadows, justice. In the Dark Lady's name. Always.
In darkness, truth. Oh, hold up.
Better take a look.
Oh, I see what you mean. And then...
Gazing into the broken mirror serves no purpose. The reflection it offers is like a dizzying kaleidoscope.
There we go.
Oh no, I activated the mystic thing up there.
Gazing into the broken mirror serves no purpose. The reflection it offers is like a dizzying kaleidoscope. In darkness, truth. In shadows, justice. In the Dark Lady's name. Always.
Oh. Oh,
in darkness,
yeah, I
truth.
see. You were clicking on that thing.
In shadows, justice.
I was so lost. I was like, where were you clicking
Lady's
to get that?
name.
And then there's just this random thing. Like, what's giving her Covert Critical, Blessing of Saloon, Cat's Gray, Seeing the Invisible.
Right, what now? Can't slow down.
Gazing into the broken mirror serves no purpose. The reflection it offers is like a dizzying shadows, justice. In the Dark Lady's name.
And then
Always.
there's nothing there, it's just a chasm. And then if you light these, nothing happens. Oop. That was my mistake. Sorry.
Way to bring it down almost on top of my head.
You're fine, you're not dead. Yeah. I don't think there's any. Oh, the mirror is lit now.
No, I did that.
Oh, okay.
I used light on it to see if that would do something.
Gazing into the broken mirror serves no purpose. The reflection it offers is like a dizzying kaleidoscope. The mirrors here seem to not reflect light, but devour it. The mirrors here seem to not reflect light, but devour it.
But devour it. Oh, but devour it. All right, hang on a second. Back to the Gauntlet of Shar.
We're teleporting over there, are we?
Yeah, because I'm gonna like do the whole like stand in front of, or get to the bowl thingy-madiggy, select thingy-madoog, and have it tell me it's like, oh, because maybe I need to like actually click on the thingy-madiggy, and then they'll give me an extra long explanation about how, you know, these umbral orb things must certainly be the reason for it.
Wait, that little elevator thing that we were on earlier, that had 2 directions on it, didn't it?
Up and down, but I'm pretty sure it was the same. Up is to get us here, and down was to get us back down. And it was done via... Oh, no, this thing only had, like, the 2... Like, see how it's lit up? Only one of them is, like, lit up. It's this traversal gem on the left, nothing on the right. You can't highlight it.
Really?
Yeah, really.
Traversal gem on the left, damn.
Well, in it.
I feel like there's something else we're missing here.
I reckon if we... Alright, everyone on? There we go. I reckon if we, like, click on the wall... Like, because we just sort of, like, really quickly looked at the door, and I was like, yep, I know exactly what we're missing. And we moved on from there. I reckon if we, like, click on the door, we're gonna have this moment of, like, oh, there's magic and all this kind of nonsense. Maybe then we'll be able to tell what's a Mahuzi that it's like, oh, we can't open this while there's a spell. So...
Spill the blood of Saluna and rise a warrior of Shar.
Found finish the hide the completed. Visit in. We found her disclosing the fact isn't right. She's a woman caged and somehow mixed up in the business of Kethric's invulnerability. We defeated the Orthon. Told her who lurks in the depths beneath the mausoleum. Evidently, we should try to deal with his old enemy.
Oh, hang on.
Great. The cultists were trying to find an ancient temple. If we find the thingy-madigget we discover... Certain matter to the ill effects of the Shadow Curse. What's your hang-on?
I found a craggy rock step down near the gauntlet. Just having a look now. There's some large vases down here.
Alright, give me a sec. I'm gonna head over to Balthazar and see if he had an umbral orb. Or if I, you know, remember incorrectly or anything like that.
A good one, not the one with the marrow pots.
Okay, so there's a heavy chest. Surgery kit.
Not lost your nerve, I hope. I tend to remove those from my creations. Too much fuss.
Oh, you're a weirdie, aren't you?
Embalming fluid and a pipette.
Alright, so the weird thingy-majiggy isn't there.
In each of us is more than what we are. Parts multitude from our thoughts, desires, nature itself. Manifold are creatures inside you, and what you can become if you speak my words. This is your part made manifest. Your weakness can become strength if it's made legion. Quaking hearts can find courage in their numbers. The lowest vermin can humble Goliath if they stand as an army, and ruin can become a kingdom for one soul made many. Speak Itori Mustang thrice. Become your finest self, all of them. Raphael.
Oh. Wait, Raphael was down here?
Mm-hmm. Down near the feet of the Lady Shah statue.
Okay, I'm heading down towards you. Read that. You did a Arcana check. What did you say?
What the hell?
Hang on.
The rat stares at you. It almost seems like it wants your attention.
Oh. Read it again. They were talking about something about, like, you know, the despite the thingy-majiggy, like doing the Goliath and da 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 da.
Beady, malicious eyes stare at you. The rat
What
probably
if
wants to feast on your corpse along
Raphael
with its
wrote
friends.
that, right?
Yep.
I reckon. Hang on a second. I'm gonna. All right, I need to. I should have F5 before you finish reading that, so then that way there was like a. Because I reckon. So wait, you said there was Crag Steps or something like that.
Yeah, down near the Gauntlet of Shah.
Ah, there it is. Okay. Craggy Rock. And then from the Craggy Rock you were there. To get to there.
A final warning. Offer us peace now, or be devoured.
None of you are.
An ordinary rat alone. But together, something more. Some remember turning away from the sun. Some remember donning a black cloak. Some remember plunging a blade into an innocent heart.
These are the followers of Shar!
Lethindor. We share who he was.
Your one person turned into a swarm of rats.
It shouldn't be. We should be one long dead. Instead, we are many. Scurrying, hiding, surviving.
That's why he can't leave it.
Life. Harmless nothings, unless you test us. Leave us in peace.
Hang on a second. Get out of the... Because we need to look at the inscription again. Because there's obviously a way to... Like, Raphael's obviously set up a thingy-majiggy to reverse the effects and what have you.
Hang on, I clicked the candle and he appeared.
Oop. How do I... There we go.
No. So that's why the other guy can't leave. Because Raphael made it impossible for him to find the last surviving...
Because they're all rats.
A ritual circle. Seems to be infernal in nature.
But what if we attack the rat?
Each of us is more than what we are. Parts mutilated that form our thoughts, desires. Manifold are the creatures inside you. What you can become when you speak my words. is all your parts made. Your weakness can become strength if it is made legion. Quaking hearts can find courage in their numbers. The liliest vermin can humble a Goliath if they stand as an army, and ruin can become a kingdom for one soul made many. Itori Mustag.
Become your finest self, all of them.
A ritual circle. Seems to be infernal in nature.
Cracked helmet of Shar. There's gotta be other ways to...
A ritual circle. And not of this plane either.
A ritual circle.
Infernal, I would guess.
Seems to be infernal in nature.
Okay. Because
all the... I want to see what happens if I attack this rat.
Rat's beady eyes hold your gaze in.
Oh.
Just as I thought.
Rats.
Let's kill them all. Crap, and you can't.
Six. What the fuck was immune to fire damage?
I have no idea. Damn it, if Shah wasn't in the way, if Shah wasn't in the way, I could throw a fireball at that.
Alright, well, I'm thinking... Yep. Soporific rat. What the hell? So there's a necrotic, a normal rat, and then a soporific rat. So many different rats.
Can she use an AoE or anything like that?
Give me a second, I'm having a look. I can do Spirit Guardian.
That could work.
There we go. And then we just get into the circle. LOL! Yep, get in the circle, get in the circle! Look at them. Look at them, just fucking dying if they pop up. Oh, I need to get my character in there if you can. Alright, hang on. I'm gonna jump here. There we go, and then... You want to get into the circle with Shar?
Trying to, don't worry.
Alright, just... You can jump.
No, I've only got so many movement for Halcyon.
See if you can jump it.
No, I can't. No, Halcyon's out of his main movements.
Oh.
So I can jump it on my next turn now.
Wait, you can't jump now?
No, because I used this. Oh wait, yes I can.
This is gonna be funny. Let's see how effective this is. Because it looked like, it was almost like the wall of fire thing where they were just like crowding, trying to get in. Alrighty, and then if she moves a little, yep, okay, cool. This is silly. Alright. This is gonna be good. Halcyon just needs to survive 3 more rats.
Go suck a lemon.
You go suck a lemon. This is a sound strategy.
They keep running into the vines as well.
Zeebs is a cutie.
Oh my. Also, you just fell asleep for some reason.
So did you.
Oh.
Oh, the sleepy rats must have some sort
Oh, okay. Can Halcyon jump further? Alrighty. This is gonna be silly. Alright, so pass can't do a turn. Are you gonna do like a wall of fire or something? Or that. Oh, so they burst. Alrighty. Alright, so you just need to, and then... Let's see how it goes.
because when they move in the vines, they hurt themselves.
Yep. I'm just gonna pass the turn. Looks like there's only one rat left.
Yeah, there's not much point in doing much other than that.
Yep.
Oh wait.
Ranged. Oh. Oh.
Fucking nailed it, bitch!
Woo! The last of the fucking Justicars.
I figured if he was to appear all of a sudden, if we destroyed all the rats,
These hands.
he'd appear.
Too big.
Nice.
Where are the others? Where's the rest of me? You! Why did you have to keep prying? Why couldn't you just leave?
Hold on.
Luthindor, last Dark Justiciar. I kept watch over Lady Shah's temple. Kept the faith alive after all the others were killed.
You are a rat, dude.
But you ruined it. Trespassed. Spoiled my secret. Now, you will rot in the dark.
I'm sorry. What more could be said?
Nothing. You had your chance to talk. Now you die.
Well, I said sorry, so he attacked us. So Shah can't be pissed at me for this.
Yep, no, fair enough.
Let's get this over with.
Darn, I don't have any more level 4 spell slots for that. Oh well, fair time. Hey, this is about to get unbearable.
Oh yeah, we're absolutely decimating him.
He's not gonna he can barely stand against us.
Asshole! He made me go to sleep.
He did a John Cena on you.
Let's make this quick.
Ow, I bit my fucking tongue.
What were you doing?
I was eating a Mentos. I went to bite into it, and my tongue bit my tongue.
Got him. Justicar's Scimitar. Shadow biting. If you attack with advantage, you have a chance of blinding your target. Nice. And then Shield Bash. Darkness is close, advantage on
There is work
what's
to
in the
do.
koozies. Oh wait, hang on a sec.
I'd give that to Shadowheart.
Hang on, because I gave her like the weaker mace because she had the blood of Lathandar. Yeah, this thing is still weaker than because the blood of Lathandar is legendary and does all kinds of nonsense. Oh, and hers is the one that does the once per long rest. When your hit points are reduced to 0, you regain 2 to 12 hit points, and then allies within 9 meters also regain 1 to 6 hit points. So that's how she's like instantly getting back up again when she hits 0. The whole
could also be. We could also use that on Halson too, given that he's a druid. Also does healing and everything like that.
Well, no, it just makes it so that when she goes down, she gets back up again.
Yeah, but if you're wanting base things on light stuff, Halson's druid, you know, nature, light, and all that sort of stuff.
But she's cleric. She can use the mace and the shield. She's proficient with it.
I'm just saying, like, you know,
must keep going.
If we're wanting to do things like that, you know, we could do like, you know, Shadowheart with all the dark stuff. Be like, ooh, she's so dark. Because she's a Shadowheart.
Oh,
she's so
look at all the rats.
Dark. Hang on. Oh, they're all running.
Yeah, I guess they're dead. Or those are the rats that we already killed or some shit.
So head back over to Yugiri.
Yep, I'm gonna talk to him because I'm thinking that is the last of the followers, and then...
Maybe, hopefully, we can get him as an ally.
Yep. Actually, I should probably make it that Shadowheart's not the one to... Oh wait, was it Justicars that he had to kill, or just all followers of Shar?
Justicars.
Okay.
Find a way forward.
I wonder if he's gonna...
What I'm guessing is... Raphael split the guy into rats, so that way...
Yerger wasn't going to get out.
They do it anyway.
Couldn't figure out the riddle, and couldn't get out.
Yep.
Wait. Quiet. It's gone. The song is gone.
Go suck a lemon.
The contract is completed.
He says the song is gone. Raphael helped him hide from you.
Conniving sack of worms. I should have known. I should have ripped his tongue out before he even spoke of this contract.
Here I am, Yergir, tongue and all, precisely on time for a lesson in semantics.
He fucking runs away and everything, and now he just
Devil's
drops
in the
back
details,
here.
You see? And the details are in the fine print. You were to fulfill the deal. Nowhere does it stipulate you could subcontract the last kill to the first adventurer's party that came trotting along. In short, you're in breach of contract, my friend. Oh, dear.
Oh.
Back to the house with what we agreed. I have you now, Raphael. Pay the debt, and I will make this quick.
Oh.
Consider your position. You are about to forfeit what reputation you have left. No contracts, no fame, no power. You'll be a streak of excrement. Even lemurs will slither away from. Unless, of course, you consider instead my infinite mercy. A new contract, a chance to balance the books, not to mention a welcome change of scenery.
Bastard!
You're gonna need a way more conditions than just one, Yerger.
On one condition. No more songs.
What's a contract without whimsy, I say? But fine. No more songs. Now, off to the House of Hope for cocktails and canapes, and a brand new signature on a brand new deal. But first, it would be only befitting if you reward your subcontractor. The greater reward for the greater hunter.
Huh?
Anything I leave behind is yours. Pick over it however you like.
Hey, that's how we get our orb.
Oh, I'm gonna kick Raphael in the dick one of these days.
So much blood. What
Did
the
her
hell
wound
has
play
been
up just
happening
then?
here?
It did. But I think that's because of just, you know, we're in the fucking gauntlets and such, and now we have the
The inner
last.
sanctum is with a bed made of severed heads.
So yeah.
That can't be good for your
All right,
heart.
let's.
Hey, wait, what about the beastie? Did you leave it behind?
No, a lot of it's gone. Oh, here's a
Check
chest.
for anything useful.
We can now open everything we could ever want.
Anything good in it?
Boots of Brilliance, giving a restore bardic inspiration. I'm gonna send this to camp.
Helm, broken shields.
Rib cages, long swords. Nothing really of use.
Nothing in the rib cages either.
Hmm. I am going to use the Gauntlet of Shar to, like, teleport. Oh, wait, hang on. Yep, so they were back together, so. Ding. So she's picked up the thingamadiggies. Shame that, you know, Raphael decided to be a bit of a dick and be like, it wasn't in the contract that you could subcontract. It's like, bitch, did you have it in the thingamadiggy that he couldn't? That would have been my first counter. Because, yeah.
Hang on, where we at? Because I've lost where I am.
We're trying to get here.
I've lost where I'm at.
We're just waiting for we're just waiting for the petri dish to come over. Hi there, Faded Foxo. Welcome to the stream. That's how devils work. He sadly was in the position of power, so he could make up whatever loopholes he wanted. Yeah, but with Will's contract, the devil, like his contract, devil, has been able to do the whole, like, you know, stipulating article, da-da-da-da-da. Raphael, meanwhile, I feel like his is more letter, like, spirit of the letter, not letter of the law kind of thing, where if you could argue it, I feel like you could have gotten away from it. He's not, you know, doing the whole, like, yes, section this, subsection that. He's not enforcing the contract. He's just, you know, the spirit of it.
Exactly. Also, hello, Ginger. How you doing?
Hi, Ginger. Insert. There we go. That's all three of them. Giving us our thingamadig. Nice. Ooh. The thingamadiggies light up. And we get ourselves a waypoint.
This must be where initiates undertook their final preparations.
Don't go any further.
The end is near.
Gift of mercy, gift of darkness.
You show great potential.
Trust your secrets to the night. Deliver the Night Mother's mercy upon her enemies. Shroud yourself in blackest night.
A dark justiciar.
Almost there. I will not fail you, my lady.
Darkness, mercy, secrets. That's because Will's patron is a lawful neutral, devil well is a lawful evil. He will twist it. Okay, is she... Was it the books previously that hang on. Justicar's journal, Moonhaven, Sharon's journal.
No one stopped me.
Was it in the library that we had all those, like, books about the...
Got the books here. Endless Darkness, Soft Step Trial, Owns... Oh, hang on. Hold up. Hold up.
You found something?
Darkness, Secrets. Own Secrets.
Trust your secrets to the night.
No. Okay, I thought maybe I could place that down, but no.
Shroud yourself in blackest night.
Okay, I'm gonna F5 this, and I'm gonna have her walk towards the entrance and see what happens.
This must be the last step. I need to pray. Only by Lady Shah's grace did we even make it this far.
Shadowheart?
Shadowheart continues her prayer in silence.
All right.
I'll be respectful.
No
I
need
won't
to dash in
read
ahead
her
of me.
mind.
I'm ready.
Really?
Some prayers are answered more quickly than others. Let's continue.
Okay.
You must
So what do
gather
we
your
do?
party before venturing forth.
Ooh. All right, get closer, get closer.
Your party is gathered. You are ready, or so you hope.
Are you sure you wanted to proceed? Depending on your choices, the state of the region could change, and some active quests may become unavailable.
Oh, let's do no at the moment.
Save. Because I reckon it's gonna help with the Moonrise Tower and shit.
I feel we need to find the boy before we do that, if that's the case.
Where else? Where could the boy be, though?
He's out in the forest. He was highlighted when we went out there.
Huh? Alright, I'm gonna go to the last light in so we can, like, see the thingy-majiggy, okay?
Yep.
Alright. Okay, so seek Thanael's shadow. The house in the deep shadow.
Which is over near the shadowed battlefield.
Alright, I'll go to the shadowed battlefield then.
That's what I was saying. We might want to do that first.
Fair enough.
Another
Fair
This way.
enough.
Still alive.
Alright, do you want to do a short rest?
Yeah, do a short rest.
I can
Actually,
keep
we
going
may
a
need a
little
long rest
longer
because
now.
I'm out of really high spell slots.
Oh, okay. Long rest then. That gauntlet was fun.
It was. I want to talk to Halson quickly before we get a chance.
Fair enough, fair
And
enough.
no, it doesn't. Not just because Daddy. I just want to see if there's.
Does he have an
ways
exclamation
to-
point?
No, but I just want to quickly chat with him just in case.
Alrighty then. I'm gonna chat with Shadowheart.
Father preserve you. Only by reputation. She was present when we marched against Ketheric Thorm, but on the far end of the battle lines from where I fought. And in the chaos that ensued, well, our forces were scattered. I led some to safety, but never learned of her fate. I'm glad to hear she survived. Though in truth, I should not be surprised. She was always said to be formidable and cunning. I could have learned much from her, no doubt.
You're an archdruid. How can you possibly
No
learn?
matter how long I live, I will always strive to remain a keen pupil. Only a fool would think he could drink in all knowledge until none is left. There is always more. Nature's
would love
tapestry
to
is
see
infinitely
EA
complex.
do
I
the
cannot
next
help but
Dragon Age
wonder
in
how she would have
something
handled
similar
some of the
Baldur's
challenges
Gate
I faced as
style.
Archdruid. Would she have helped the refugees?
Or at least take some
Defended the
hints from what
grove.
Baldur's Gate has done.
I think that is fair enough.
At least
yeah,
now we can
because
benefit from her
Dragon
presence.
Age Origins
perhaps
was a very
work to the
like
common goal.
strategic sort of game, but I have a bit of a problem when games like, you know, the originals Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 or Dragon Age Origins, where they introduce a whole, oh, you need to be strategic, but then they don't give you like the sort of the natural sort of length of time to be able to like, because sure, there's the pause button. The pause button, however, feels very like, I don't know, I'm just not a huge fan of like having to manually do a pause on pause kind of thing. This, where the turn base is like a very naturalistic sort of do this, plan ahead, engage, 6 seconds pass, do this, engage, da-da-da.
I do felt they got a little bit better when they added in sort of the similar Mass Effect mechanics to it later on. I felt that sort of led to its overall playability.
Yep.
Given that you could build your team around what you wanted rather than build your team around, oh, you know, whatever build styles they said you could go for.
So yeah.
And you, depending on how your team was built, you had those buffs and debuffs in play, depending on who the team members were.
Yeah, and what's more is, sure, Dragon Age and Baldur's Gate might have some similar overarching elements, but like, I think the difference is all in the background, mechanically speaking. So Oh, because for example, like in this one, it's like, yeah, you have a party of 4. It's a very D&D sort of planning. Whereas with things like Mass Effect, and I feel like they were going to go this direction with Dragon Age in the series, but they only like have you. I feel like they were properly limiting the party so that it was still like, you know, the active sort of, oh, you do this, and then a second person comes like, I don't know. Some elements I feel like it would be interesting, but then comes the issue of if Dragon Age does go into this turn-based thing, one, EA has not done that before. It is going to feel jarring, and there's going to be even more comparison between Baldur's Gate and Dragon Age. Dragon Age, however, needs to play into the strengths that they had at Origin, that they faulted on 2, and recovered on Inquisition, and that is not only their NPCs, but their companions, and having appropriate quest lines that help you engage with the universe a little bit.
Yeah, see, that's what I agree with you on that.
So yeah, because, you know, in Dragon Age Absolution, I think it's called, the TV show, we just got a little hint to what the, what's the place called?
Oh yeah,
the Deventer Imperium. We've just got a little like a little scent of what that looks like, and how like, you know, sure, there's
really
this.
Interested to see if the second season's gonna build on that. If they don't,
Is there
do
a second?
Fucking Netflix.
Wait, hang on a second. Are they doing a second season?
I'm really hoping they do, because the way it ended was going to hint at a second season.
It hinted at more, but I thought it was hinted at more that would then be utilized in the video game or something like that, because they showed the Red Templars, and from what Absolution looked like, I thought it was set between the elements of Dragon Age 2 and Inquisition.
So it is looking like there is going to be a season 2, but we're not sure yet.
Chronologically, Absolution takes place after the conclusion of Dragon Age Inquisition. Ah, as characters make reference to the events in that past, but before the events of the upcoming game, Dreadwolf.
Yeah, so I think if they're going to do season 2 for Absolution, that'll come out before Dreadwolf will release.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there we might see, hints to the future of what Dreadwolf's gonna bring. Because Absolution's got this whole thing about this, Ouroboros ring, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And what that's gonna bring forth. Whether or not that will feed into the next game or not is gonna be one of those things to see.
She did not feel it was memorable, which was a real shame, as Dragon Age spin-offs have historically been great. Huh.
Really? This one was good. I mean,
it was good, but what they're explaining is that other Dragon Age stuff before this one, like, is, I think the argument that they're saying of why it was disappointing was because it felt rushed, because it didn't give people an opportunity to, get in on it or something like that, much like their comics or their literature, which, when you deal with literature in the high fantasy, there is just a general, like, screeching halt in terms of pacing compared to TV shows.
Yeah, I've actually got several of the comic books. They're actually really good reads.
Yeah, I want to get I think I have it on my throne. There was like a little compendium of like multiple works of Dragon Age into one thing.
Yeah, I think I know the one you're referring to. I've seen it on Angus and Robertson, and as well as Booktopia. Both great locations if you're looking for good manga collections.
Yep.
And they both do for Australia and all that too. Let me just put in a link here for you guys if you want to check it out. There's Booktopia. If you want to have a look, and Angus.
Look at this dino trying to say Angus.
Angus. Yeah, I know Angus. Angus and Robinsons. Both really good places if you guys want to check out for books, anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Most of my manga collection has come from there. they have really good stocks for manga as well as box sets.
My manga collection started from Book Depository. I don't know how I got to Book Depository, but it's since been absorbed by Amazon, I believe. Yeah, it's been absorbed, which is a shame.
Like, they've got the full Doro Hidoro set too, which is also on my throne, which I gotta get.
Yeah.
And anyway, what was it? Dragon Age.
Leave it.
Cookbook.
There's a cookbook?
There's a cookbook.
Of course, there's a. I have the One Piece cookbook, but that one makes sense because one of the characters is a fucking chef. When the hell did we ever do cooking in Dragon Age?
No idea. Okay, so there is a fair few comics, though I'm not sure where the collections are. World of Thetis box set. There's a fair few, so you're gonna have to really look for them. Because unfortunately, they weren't that heavily advertised, which kind of sucked.
Radio, okay. Shame about that.
I think Angus and Robinson had some of them. Dragon Age. Yeah, Angus and Robinson's got a fair few of them. To Winter Night. The first 5 graphic novels.
Did you want to continue on with Baldur's Gate, however?
Oh yeah. Let's continue on. Sorry, I ADHD'd for a second there when we were starting to do stuff.
We got distracted because as Dekus was
Given
like,
the circumstances,
Dragon
you're
Age?
faring as well as can be expected, I suppose. It's true, and I can't imagine I helped with that. Sometimes I let the task at hand consume me, and people think I'm obsessed. Trust me, the day I no longer have to talk about the Shadow Curse will be a happy one. What would you like to know? I am? Trust me.
Oh, you're flirting with him.
You show more restraint than most in avoiding the subject until now. Who's to say? Perhaps there's a half-orc buried somewhere in my ancestry. Or perhaps not. Sometimes I think conventional wisdom is too narrow about what someone can or cannot be. Stranger things have most certainly happened. I had a friend when I was young, long ago. He played with me in the forests where I grew up. But eventually, I realized no one else had heard of him. It was Thaniel, of course. Nature was my very first friend. I get older, but he hasn't changed a day. I knew then that I had to be more than a companion to him. I had to be a protector. You're not a doppelganger, are you? Trying to study me to learn all my secrets so you can take my place? Save for me, my line perished a long time ago. They rest in High Forest now, near the shade of the grandfather tree.
I love
the
how he's
Grove
all like,
became
"Here
my
we go.
family,
You're
with
not up to this for
Sylvanas
any
as my
sort of,
teacher.
you know,
And
experience
now I have
means-
you.
No, I just want to get in your pants. That's about it.
Yeah, of course you do.
It was a long time ago. The wounds don't heal, but they become more bearable. I'm 350 years old.
Daddy.
Of course there have been lovers. Just because I love nature doesn't mean I'm betrothed to it. Though sometimes nature needs reminding. Well, I didn't pick this scar up in battle. I was in wild shape, only I forgot it was the season when bears are particularly social. A she-bear claimed me as her own and did not appreciate being spurned.
Oh, God.
Right now, I bed down alone, I'm afraid. Perhaps once I talk less of curses and parasites, my fortunes will improve.
I'm sorry, he almost got fucked over by a bear?
Yeah.
I suppose you wouldn't be shocked to learn I love animals and nature? I know. Well-trodden territory. Well then, let's see. I whittle in my spare time, and I've something of a sweet tooth. Although everyone's very amused when I say I like honey.
This is why he's a bear, isn't he?
How fortunate to know you like. I wouldn't pay attention to what others think.
You're right. Sometimes I think people look at me and imagine my feelings can't be hurt.
Whittling, what do you make?
Ornaments, utensils, and ducks. I like ducks.
Quack.
Duck.
Thank me by returning the favor, why don't you? Come on. I'm sure you've something better than carving wooden ducks.
I live in mortal fear of krakens, so I don't...
Well, they are fierce creatures from what I understand. But as long as you avoid the high seas, I think you can consider yourself safe. Anytime.
Alrighty then. Let's swap out Shadowheart. And I'm gonna...
Mommy, don't you?
Yeah, I'm gonna get Carla.
The Gauntlet of Shah.
He wants mommy, everyone.
Can't believe
it's just a barbarian is so much better than the cleric while we have a druid.
He wants mommy.
This is the place where you could become a Dark Justicar. Your dreams might soon be realized. That Orthon lurking in the wings is formidable. Can't imagine you two pleased to have the likes of Balthazar in there.
A sack of spare parts. He and his
we'll have to deal with
undead
Balthazar
lackeys should
later on,
never have
too.
come here. Perhaps I can rid Lady Shah's gauntlet of them yet.
What's this? Contains
He
milk.
slew
Oh, it's an
Lady
eclairs.
Shah's children. By rights, I should avenge them and cut that ugly head right off his thick neck. But I'm no fool either. Picking a fight with him would be a distraction. A potentially fatal one. Whatever Lady Shah bids me to. I must not fail her now. Not when I'm so close. I know. I can scarcely believe it's real. But I saw it with my own eyes. Felt the polished stone walls raised in Lady Shah's honor. Normally,
Do I still have
it
the
would not be for
Heterochromia
me
nonsense?
to pursue becoming a Dark Justiciar without a superior's command.
A little bit.
But this is different. My lady wanted me to find this place. I know it.
If you're sure. Fine.
Alright. Garlock.
Something in the air down here. Hell yes.
Mommy, come here.
And then we go immediately to bed to refresh your spell slots.
I'm the one lying here basically half naked.
Yeah, that was your choice. I'm still wearing the fancy pajamas.
What? I mean, who wouldn't want to sleep out in the middle of nowhere, pretty much in their starkers, for everyone to see?
I do not want that.
Let me go up ahead if we're going to be dealing with,
fun. All I wanted was to play.
Yeah, sounds like the child's in there looking to play with things.
Let me go forward.
New.
Just because if it's Daniel, I'd rather have Halson.
Boo! I scared you! I saw it! Nobody beats me at hide and seek.
That's him. Like an echo of Thaniel, remolded by the curse. We need him if we're to put a stop to all of this.
Will you play with me?
Yes?
Who are you?
I'm Oliver. I'm 7. Will you play with me?
Yeah, we're not going to be able to explain to a 7-year-old the crazy thingy-majiggies.
In a moment, do you have have you seen another little boy? His name's Thaniel.
I don't know anyone called that. Don't ask me again.
Okay.
Now play with me.
Fine.
All right. I'll hide, and you seek.
Halson disapproved of that.
Let's make this quick. We need to reunite him with Thaniel.
He's going to disapprove because of, like, the whole, like, wasting time. But I feel like this is a safer bet.
If I don't find you,
then you lose.
Besides, I got an eye that can see invisible shit.
All right, let's
get
try
ready.
This.
And
F5.
no cheating.
His design is really good, though.
It's interesting seeing it. Alrighty. Are we supposed to wait for him? Do you have like a countdown or something going off in your head, or?
No, just giving him a second.
You weren't supposed to find me. You weren't supposed to win.
Let's play again.
Good idea. You're smarter than some playmates I've had. They always tried to leave before I was done with them. Try to find me again, but my family will be looking for you at the same time, so don't get caught.
Alright. Oh.
Shades.
Best mummy ever. Then there's a doggy.
Daddy ever.
And then Daddy, the strongest. I don't know, chat. We do have Halcyon on our team. Alrighty, so this is...
So what are we gonna do?
Well, he's seen. Well, because we can see him because of my invisible eye thingamadiggy. I reckon I'm gonna end my turn. We're gonna let nature take it because we still need the 6 seconds to pass.
Yeah.
Oh, I should have worn better boots. On my way.
Alright, there we go. So I'm hiding in there. And then Karlak is going to hide here.
What to do?
What's Halcyon doing?
Let's get in and out.
Ring of Shadows, where you can pass without a trace.
Well, that's interesting.
Uh-oh, I think they're gonna find me if I'm not careful.
Can you jump Can you jump to that cat? Oh, it's a chasm. Never mind. You're gonna fireball them?
No, I'm advanced leaping.
Okay, I was about to say, I thought you were like, when in doubt, fireball. I thought you were really...
Not that dumb.
Fireball. Oh. Problem.
I was hoping not to get caught doing that.
Hopefully the boy doesn't get mad for the quote-unquote cheating. So you're in the middle of a fight right now?
Yeah, and I'm gonna...
Go.
I wonder if this is worth the cost.
Where the fuck did... Oh, there's Oliver right there.
Just don't hurt Oliver. He doesn't seem to be hostile, so let's get these guys out of the way and then deal with them.
another step forward.
Rolling with disadvantage, and I'm still making the hit. Alright. Aura of the... Daddy's lecture is hitting me for necrotic damage. Hi there, Sky. Oh, you got knocked the fuck out. And then...
Where'd the dog go?
What the dog doing?
Also, where'd the dog go? He bit me, then ran away.
Shadow blend. Is invisible. Alright, you got your wooden woad. If you push the dryad, they wake up. Or if you push or move any sleeping person, they wake up.
Time to press ahead.
Alrighty. Now, is there a way for me to jump up? Not really, not from in here. And...
Aha! Was able to get the dog to appear. Wasn't exactly my idea to burn, but it worked.
Where the hell is the dog? Oh. Noted.
I mean, the idea was to, you know, figure a way to make it appear. I didn't actually mean to...
Jesus. It's an AoE, Dad's lecture.
Well, lectures are boring.
Oh, I take 11 for doing that? Oh my god.
Honestly, Halson being able to summon those other guardians too is really useful in battles like this. It just gives Halson more viability as both a healer and a summoner.
There. Oh, what? There we go.
I win! I always win in the end. You did better than most, though, so I'll let you go. Here. Second prize. You'll need it. I won fair and square. There's no point in playing again. I want a challenge.
Though shrouded in shadows, the child's resemblance to Thaniel is unmistakable. This must be his dark half, warped by the curse.
Go on, find someone else to play with.
Okay.
Spoil sport. I'm not going back. I like it here. I've made a family for myself. I get to play all the time. Yes, I do. You can't make me do anything. I don't want to play with you anymore.
He's fled. We need to track him down. Wherever the curse is the strongest, that's where he'll go. That's where he'll feel safe.
Good idea. Well, we got a cool ring.
Let's be on my way.
That was...
Pulled in a shadow portal.
What happened to the ring?
Oh, I got it. Ruby ring. Just, that's it. That's all it was.
I have a ring of shadows.
Yeah, because you stole it off of him.
Alright, well, here you go. He probably would have given you that ring for winning second place.
Oh, lockpick here.
Alrighty then, one moment.
I reckon we'll need to follow him into the shadow portal.
Yep, I reckon we'll need to do that too. You didn't use too much of your what's-mahoozy spells, right?
No, I didn't this time around.
Alright.
I took quite a beating. Oh, I've got a level up too.
When a foe fails a saving throw against one of your spells or actions, they gain mental fatigue for 2 turns. Sounds right up your alley. Oh, Dad's axe. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that.
Huh.
Hang on, I've got a...
Oh, a wooden desk.
Let's see, what spells can I get? Banishment, Light...
Oliver's
Fairy
Diary.
Cures 1221
Dominate
paid me
beast.
to say
Make
go
a beast
suck a
fight
butt.
alongside you. Every time the beast takes damage, it makes a wisdom saving throw against your domination. That seems more of a Halcyon thing.
Go suck a lemon.
Counter spell. And I got a feat. Let's see.
I'm gonna go through the portal. Cookie for furry cores.
Wait a second. I'm picking out some abilities. And of course you went through the portal without me.
Look, we just have to deal with Mommy and Daddy again, okay? We'll be fine.
Hang on, hold up. Let me get creature attacks, cast a spell within melee range of you. Take advantage. And a spell sniper.
And the Night Dome has like
No, I don't
300 health. Bam.
Increased ability. Charisma, Dex. Could have at least waited a few minutes for us to come and help you.
We'll be fine. We got this. And look, you're still above the rest of the rolls.
Alright, I'm gonna put a spike growth down below.
Alright.
This might hurt you a little bit.
Fair enough. No, I'm still good. The Night Dome is immune to necrotic, psychic. It's got resistance to basically a lot of things. There is no weaknesses to it. Oliver's Night Dome won't allow for you to hurt him. Any damage done to the dome will be reflected in twofold to its attacker.
So I think the best thing
is
take out the Mummy and Daddy first.
Yeah, understandable. I'm dealing with Mummy right now. You can deal with Daddy.
Sure.
Nice.
You should have just left me alone. Spoil my fun.
Oh, don't you dare.
Just you watch.
Wait, who do they sleep? Oh, someone useless.
Yeah, they made the Woodwode sleep.
Yeah.
I refuse to elaborate because I don't know what I just said.
Fiddly-dee.
Haha, snared.
Nice. Alrighty.
I'll make my own fun if I have to. And my own friends.
Oh, is he gonna make friends until the end? Oh, but they're all like 1 HP, so.
Yeah, maybe try not to hurt them though if we can.
Okay.
Well, they all look to be a part of Oliver.
Hey, your woad is awake again. What's he doing?
Darn, it does provoke attack. Oh, you know what? Fuck it.
Ugh.
Oh, it hurt the thing out.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Well, fuck
I'm about to hit the fattest slap on his friends. Hang on a second.
Wow. You're gonna slap a child.
Observe. Absolutely fucking broke. Oh, 20 points of damage. You love seeing that.
Can't even catch my breath.
Alrighty, and then whoa. Bam, and then crit. There we go. And then I will there we go. I'm doing a great job.
Ha! Dryads are immune to sleep, none nuts. She slapped.
The confidence in you, and you're like, oh.
Let me show you my favorite toy.
Fluffy memory. Oh, it's a. Oh, it's an owl bear. Well.
Yeah, I think we have to take all of these out in order to lower that shield.
Yep, makes sense. We just need to deal with the big ones. Where was it flying to? Nowhere. Oh! Jesus Christ. Alright, looks like I'm fighting an owl bear.
And children!
Lol. Oh.
Dang it.
Okay, the children don't miss. Alright. Thankfully they're only 1 HP, so... Oh my gosh, crit missed! Damn you! There we go. Hey, I leveled up. I leveled up because of the, what's-some-who's. Alright, I'm gonna put her there.
Comes easy these
and
days.
then hit you. And then can I do? I'm gonna try a stunning strike on the. Oop. The fuck are you? Oh, okay. There we go. The owl bear is stunned. There we go. What house and do? What the bear doing? Also, why am I not getting notifications for oh, the follows were like before I started streaming. Okay. Never mind. Nice. Ooh, we're ruining the kids' fun. Jesus, House, and have a better thingamadoog. They roll rarely high for some reason. Like, Jesus. Oh! I'm gonna Prime Bull Rush. Nice. Alrighty, and then... Oh, I used up all my...
Another fight.
Damn it. Alright.
Let's go. Here we go again.
And fuck them kids.
Why are you doing this? All I wanted to do was play.
Yeah, this kid's got issues. Honestly, so much fun fighting children. How many of that is that so far?
More?
Alright, so 1, 2, 3, 4. About 5 get summoned per round, or per turn. And I think we're up to like 15 right now.
Yeah.
Now we just need to wait for them to do their thing.
Just waiting on the children.
Just wait. There we go. Alrighty. You. Bonk. You. Yes, because I critically missed, which is a bad idea.
Survival is all that matters.
Why couldn't you just leave me alone? Why can't I just stay here playing?
So we beat up like 10 kids.
And you've ruined it. I'm not leaving. You can't make me.
Be gentle. He's much more than a child. But he doesn't truly know that.
He's nothing to me. He left me here all this time. I had to do everything for myself. Even when it was scary, even when I was alone. I didn't give up.
You were very brave and resourceful.
But would he even want me back? I've changed. A lot.
Hey, Galgadio. I'm just reprimanding a child to try and join back with the adult.
So I wouldn't have to make up friends to play with anymore. I'd have someone real. I'd like that. And he would too, I think. All right, I'll do it. I want to do it.
Well done.
Cave Bear approves.
You're a bit big to be crying. But I suppose that's okay. Bye.
Hey, everyone approved.
Yay!
Yay!
I like that he's cave bear.
It's done, at last. Soon the land will be unshrouded. We should return to Thaniel when we can.
Alright. Hey, me and Carla can level up.
Hang on, yeah, I've also got to level up the house, and let me just do that quickly too.
Alrighty, I am now a level 8 monk. I can replace...
A level 8?
So I can change any of those... Oh, shit. Let me go back into it.
Oh no! He done fucked up people!
You know what I just realized?
You're mad and I'm not?
No. When you, So you'll notice it if... Watch this. The finger clicks down when you click.
Oh, it does too.
See? That's cool.
I did not realize that.
A new feat. Okay, I can't get heavily armored.
Spell slot, attitude. Take Warcaster feat to improve concentration check.
Defender, duelist. You roll your die, use the highest result. Sentinel, sharpshooter, tavern brawler. When you make an unarmed attack, use an improvised weapon or throw something, your strength modifier is added twice to the damage and the attack rolls. Yep. That's exactly what I'm doing. Oh, but my strength roll is so low. My strength roll is so low.
It's because you don't utilize strength.
Yeah.
You're a monkey. You utilize dex rolls.
I could use Savage Attacker, where when I make a melee attacks, I roll the damage dice twice. But... No. Glaive, Halberd, Quarterstaff, Spear. You can use a bonus action to attack with the butt of your weapon. You can also make an attack of opportunity when a target comes within range. Nice. 1d4 bludgeoning. When wielding a glaive, you can make an attack when a target comes within range. That's an interesting one, where it's something coming towards me. I think I like that one. I think I'll go with that one, the Pole Master. Because it'll give me an opportunity of anything coming close, I'm just going, wha-bam! 77. What's her sub-action? You have become an expert at moving through the wilderness. Difficult terrain no longer slows you down. Hell yeah. Deal more damage. Charge forward and slam your weapon into the first enemy in your way. Doesn't it provoke an attack of opportunity? Nice. I want to see... Is there a thing for her to, like, jump and bang into someone, I wonder?
Hard to say.
Your hit points increase by 2 levels for each level you have gained. I don't know. So it goes from 77 to 93. Neat. Weapon Master. Oh, she's proficient with everything, so it don't fucking matter. Warcaster.
Go suck a lemon.
Gain proficiency. Not really useful. She's already got the Savage Attacker.
Line for Halson, because that way we can get him to dominate any animal we come in contact with.
Mm-hmm.
Which could be useful in fighting against things like gnolls or... don't know. Make a beast, so any beast-type creature. I'm gonna take a short rest, too, because we got damaged bad in that one.
Radio.
Alright. Should we head back over to the last light in?
You hit at disadvantage. You can use a reaction to make an attack against an enemy after it casts a spell within 1.5 meters of you. You have advantage against spells cast by creatures within 1.5. Sorry, I'm just
Actually,
like...
where is...
It's a bonus action. You take a -5 penalty you make with a heavy weapons. You have a... You have a +10 bonus you make with heavy weapons.
Ah, okay. We have to go back to camp. Talk to Halson.
Alrighty then. I'm just...
Hey!
Bless you.
Sorry about that. I'll let you do your leveling first, and then
Not
we'll do
to
that.
worry. When you are prone, standing up uses only 1.5 of your movement speed. Can't be surprised. I think I'm gonna go with alert for her.
Alert was really good for me as well, so...
Yeah. Alrighty then, so...
It's also bonus initiative for me, because that way I don't have to worry about being the last one in line to shoot a fireball.
Yep. Alrighty, so... Rescue the tieflings, a hidden treasure near Moonrise. Oh, we're just going to camp?
I'm gonna talk to Halson.
Alright. I'll just be here then.
Scratch's tail wags enthusiastically.
I'm a pit Scratch.
Scratch's tongue lolls out happily, his tail wagging even faster.
Yay. Owlbear cub. Hello.
Alright, so it looks like we've got to deal with Ketheric Thorn.
Yeah. So, best...
Camp life seems to suit the young owlbear.
You know...
His coat of feathers seems full.
Head back to the gauntlet, do the dark Justicar stuff. I reckon that will do it.
Yeah, although we need to go... Don't we need to go to the thingo for that, though?
What do you mean the thingo?
The Moonlit Tower.
Maybe it will take us into the Moonlight Tower when we do it, so... Let me dismiss
Let's see what
Clarlac
other
and...
quests we've got first.
Copper for your thoughts.
Find Zevlord.
Really?
Oh yeah, let's do some of the other things in the forest first. We've got to find Zevlord.
These, no matter.
I think it'd be a good idea to find
She
him
wishes for
first.
Ketheric Thorn to be born.
Right. Oh, she can level up. Let's see what she gets. 59 health, a new class feature which gets her 1 level 4 spell slot and a divine strike that deals poison damage and a new feat. Requirements, proficiency with heavy armor. Okay, so she needs proficiency with heavy armor in order to tempt him. Great Weapon Master does all that kind of nonsense. Dungeon Delver does that. Defensive Duelist does all that. Moderately armored. You gain weapon proficiency with medium armor and shields, and your strength increases by 1 to a maximum of 20. Resilient. You increase an ability by 1 and gain proficiency in all that ability's saving throws. Which one is she? She's already pretty good with the wisdom stuff, and we could get her up to 18 if we want. Although... I think I'd give her ability improvement, to be honest with you. Put her up to 15 in the strength.
Let's do some of this stuff in the Cursed Lands first. We got Find the Night Song, Rescue Walburn. Oh no, he's at the Moonrise Tower. Moonrise Tower. Moonrise Tower.
I'm guessing there's a lot of Moonrise Tower stuff.
Yeah, and there's also Find Zevlor. We haven't found him yet. Let me have a look at the map when I go out. I'll have a look.
Wait, doesn't she already have all those? Okay, so she has all those level 1s. Wait, what? So wait, you can be Magic Initiate with a Cleric to learn 2 cantrips and a level 1 spell. For all 3 spells is Wisdom. So I can get...
Alright, well, doesn't look like anything else is popping up here on the map, so we might as well go do the... find the relic for Ketheric Throm anyway, then.
And then... Oh, these are already available.
See what spells are already on her.
Yeah. I figured. Ooh, what is Warlock? What is your... that is... And that uses Charisma, which isn't great. Martial Adept. 2 maneuvers from the battle die. So she's already, like, medium armored proficient. This one would have her gain proficiency and only increase one of her stats by 1. Resilient. Ritual spells don't cost a spell slot when cast outside of combat.
Let me have a look at the build list I was doing for
This
her.
spell is a better version of the one you already know. You will only have access to this one. Speak with animal, enhance sleep, and long... You don't have the enhanced... You already have, like, the enhanced sleep thing as a ritual spell, don't you?
Yeah, hang on 1 second. Level 8. Shadowheart will acquire Divine Strike Poison. Increase Shadowheart's Wisdom to 20 from here. So go up to feats.
And then increase the wisdom.
Yep, ability improvement.
Yeah. Alrighty then. Well, it only gets her up to 19, but I get the sentiment.
Yeah.
So, because...
Emotional damage.
She is melee... Because, yeah, if I get her to 18, then it's a +4. 19 only gives her a +4 again, but if I at least increase the strength by 1, it changes it from a +1 to a +2. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna split the difference. That way, there's at least, worthwhile ability update. So, alright. So,
Alright, let's head back to the Temple of Shah, then.
We're going all the way back to the Verge of the Shadows?
Yep.
Alright.
Let's get on with it. Let's see.
Shadowfell entrance.
Your party is gathered. You are ready. Or so you hope.
Let's do an F5 here.
I already did a save back at the camp.
Alright. Let's just hope it's no major quests we miss out on.
I don't think so. Given that, like, we were looking into Ketheric's nonsense and such, and it's led us here.
Trepidation and awe ripple through you as you enter the water. Beyond lies Shah's domain. The shadow fell.
Oh.
She's all like, take me, Mommy Shah, take me.
The cults hit different when their gods are real. Oh. So there's me.
Waking up to see your wrinkly ass.
Where the fuck are we?
Almost just like we're in the ethereal plane.
It looks like it, yeah. This must be Shadowfell, as they mentioned earlier. A lot of barbed wire.
Lady Shah. I can feel her all around. This is her domain. This is the Shadowfell.
You could sound a little less horny right now, Shadowheart.
Well. Better than I would have credited you.
Oh, fuck.
Now, hurry along and bear witness to my masterpiece.
Oh, fuck. I forgot he was with us.
This is the Dark Lady's domain. He does not belong here.
How did you get here?
I followed you. It seems Shah still holds a grudge against General Thorm, and so sought to prevent me from entering in his name. Luckily, you were the perfect agent in helping me slip past her defenses. Now the Night Song is within reach.
What's stopping me from killing you and taking this relic for myself?
Your lack of ability, perhaps? You made for an adequate errand boy thus far, but let's not overstate your virtues. Raise one finger to me, and I'd sunder you like lightning would a rotten oak. Now, enough dullard questions. Follow me.
Oh, okay, so he is actually just not giving a shit about us. Fuck.
Oh, I am gonna so look forward to kicking his ass.
Unburdened, as if the softest could send me.
Both of us having the same brain cell in game. Whee! Jesus Christ. Hang on, why didn't I jump? There we go. Alright, is my guy gonna follow?
Have to keep pushing.
Yep.
Just a little bit further. See my actions, Lady Shah. Hear my words of faith. Blessed Night Singer, witness my adoration.
Whee!
Whee! We have to wee every time we go
Whee! Yep.
I have emptied my heart of falsehoods. I have vanquished your foes.
Descend.
Okay, why do we have the whole one guard lies, the other tells a true feeling? Because it's like, listen to her, kill her, descend upon her, look up to her. It's like, Jesus Christ.
I have no idea.
Alright, can I just jump all the way to the... No, I can't. Okay, I have to take this one at a time. Whee!
Will shall be done, as sure as night will fall.
Whee! Oop, path is interrupted. Damn it.
Oop, I'll let you jump first.
Thank you. Wait for me.
Ow! Fucking jumped on me, you cunt!
Lol. Oh, you got hit hard. Sorry about that. Who the fuck? Oh, the Night Song's the person.
Balthazar. Come to add more bars to my cage? Or perhaps to lead this would-be Justicia's blade directly to my heart?
Oop.
I invite you. Heap more sins upon your head. My retribution will be all the sweeter for them.
What is she?
All this time, and you still failed to appreciate the gifts I bestowed on you, Aelin. Sad to see a thing of beauty not recognize its own worth.
Oh, so she's being
General Thorm
ripped apart and put back together by him.
And he wants you close at hand. So, I am here to whisk you back to him.
Ketherick. I welcome the sight of him after these 100 years. He whose immortality I supply with my very soul.
General Thorm. I'm sure you'll be on your best behavior for him, but just in case, I've taken some precautions. Keep back. It will take quite some concentration to secure Aelin for her little journey.
The Night Song is a person.
Person? Please. You insult her. You insult me. Aelin is so much more than that. She is an Aasimar, bound to a soul cage of my creation.
Angelic life.
Lending her immortal strength.
Okay, so if you're not familiar with D&D shit, I'll wait for Balthazar. Never mind. She also wants to say some stuff.
The maggot ate his brain long ago.
Hold your tongue, Aelin, or I'll take it away from you again. And you, no more questions. No more interference.
Audio getting crunchy, sorry about that. But yeah, so basically the Aasimar are sort of this offspring of angelic beings and what have you. They are crazy powerful kind of nonsense. You can be a playable race as well in D&D. And you can have like different sort of traits similar to the Dragonborn having different color dictating different power.
Yeah, that's essentially what I was gonna say.
Nice. We're gonna go with Lady Shar's thing.
Death only frightens those of limited vision. You should be terrified, godling!
Oh! A lot of undead shit. Thank Christ, she's got nonsense. Also, where are you? Oh, you're back here. Alright, cool. Alright.
You forget, I have the ability to go first in most situations.
Wizard time?
No, I thought about it, but she's sort of in the way.
The paladin and any nearby fiends and undead deal an additional 3 bludgeoning damage. Okay. Oh, I have an idea.
Burning hands seemed like the easier idea.
Is there a way we could, like, pull them all in?
Short work of this.
Yes, I've got void grenades. Counter spell.
So Void would pull them together and shit?
Yeah.
Alright, if you can void them to him. Wait, do I have a... Do I have a...
some in my inventory.
Let's see, we got a grease bottle.
Void bulb.
Damn it. I do not have such a thing. Alright, I'm gonna get rid of this skelly boy that's like right here if I can.
Throw.
Oh, not jump, shove. Here we go.
Pulled as many of them as I could over there.
Nice, 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 nice. Alright, so that's shoved. And then...
I'll strike you down.
So he's dead.
Best be on my way.
Alrighty, get you out of the way. Alrighty, then...
What should I do?
Alright, oh wait, hang on.
I pulled as many as I can into one spot.
Yep,
So.
give me a few. I'm gonna... Decent.
Nicely done.
So yeah. And then she's gonna give herself this to give herself a +2. There we go. And now you just need to deal with.
Don't push me.
Oh no! No, Code! So.
Save me, mommy!
Alright, so. Once it gets to my turn, I'm gonna need to whip out a scroll. Oh, look at them all grouping up like they are gonna fucking matter. Oh, and there's magical ones over there. This is going to be a bit of a funky one. Oop. Oop. Uh-oh.
See, if I was here now, this would be a great opportunity for a fireball.
It would be. It very well would be. Now, does she have just like... Granted, Gale has like the suicide bomb on him.
To put an end to your folly.
Oof. Asshole. Alrighty, and then I'll put you, like, further away from the fucking thing, so then that way you're not... Alright, and then... I'm gonna throw...
You might want to get out of that little area there, by the way.
Yeah, give me a second. I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna... Hang on. Flying, sea invisibility. Where's my speed? Elixir of the Colossus.
Push down a fucking chasm of my death. Fucking.
To be fair, you jumped down there.
To be fair, that guy's an asshole.
Alrighty. Oh my god, there's a raid by Passenger. And unfortunately, there's an advertisement running when it was going off.
Oh.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the stream. My name is Grant. I'm a variety himbo streamer. Welcome, welcome. Welcome back, Passenger. How was the sojourn? How's it progressing? Joining me for D&D night, where we're playing Baldur's Gate 3, is Kode the Yoshi.
G'day, g'day.
So yeah, I'm thinking of things, ideas, plans. So I got bonus actions to do things. Fire resistance, a simple toxin, poison resistance, what's sharpness? Nope. Lizard Bane, Drow thingy, vigilance. Gain a +5 to initiative, you can't be surprised. Sojourn is fun, but it hurts your head after 2 hours. I'm sorry to hear that. Alrighty, I'm gonna drink this potion. Now I'm bigger.
Got to focus.
That means you're no longer a dwarf.
Alrighty, polymorph. Transform a creature into a harmless sheep. Oh, he's outside my range. Okay, so a lot of these are like 16s.
Nope, it doesn't like that.
Alright, what do we got? We got Spirit Guardian, or per turn, and their movement speed is halved.
Spirit Guardian might not be a bad idea given the fact that she's surrounded at the moment.
Yep. And this one, and I think, hang on a sec, let me just double check. Yeah, they're immune to necrotic, and they take double the damage with bludgeoning. So that's for the big dudes. The smaller dudes, same sort of thing, but they're all skeletons, which I think means they take the radiant damage harder.
Yeah, so I'd go Radiant.
And then I can upcast it all the way to 4.
Might as well.
Bam! There we go. Oh. Missed. Get fucked. Nice. And then...
Can you use turn undead at the moment, or...?
Not at the moment, no. Oh, and then... Get it. Alright, and then Halsin has a turn. You might want to get Halsin a little bit further away.
I can't. His turn's over.
Damn it. Oh no! Daddy! I love how it says Halsin is inspired. Oh my god, there's another raid! What in the world? That's my second, and it's like less than an hour! Hi everyone! Welcome to the stream. My name is Grant. I am a variety himbo streamer. Hi there, Kaputs. Welcome to the stream. Hello there.
Wizard 101 still exists?
Yeah, it's an MMO, I'm pretty sure. Joining me in the guest slot is Kode the Yoshi.
G'day, how you doing?
The two of us are going through, I call it D&D night, where the both of us are playing Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah, we can continue D&D night even after we beat Baldur's Gate 3. Let's not forget that I've got several other Baldur's Gate games that I'm
Oh my
playing
god,
now.
yeah. Alright, so choose the thingy-majiggy and then choose the... There we go. And then I'm gonna Misty Step... Where can I Misty Step?
Somewhere out of that thing's range. Maybe over here if you can.
It's not... Target is too far... Oh, I think it only lets me... Alright, hang on a second. Patient Defiance... Jump. Okay, because here's the problem, is you need to... How am I gonna heal... Okay, hang on a second. Alrighty, and then... Mass healing is a bonus action. Is there a stronger spell I can cast?
No, that's the strongest one if you want mass healing at the moment.
Yeah, because one was with a necklace, this one will be max healing. You still need to buy this game one day. Okay, if you haven't played this, we're currently in the second act, and if you don't want any spoilers, I'd recommend not watching any further. We're right now in the middle of combat, so there isn't like a lot of story nonsense going on. You're just seeing a lot of zombies and skeletons, and we're fighting for our life.
I think zombies and skeletons are assholes, by the way.
That is true. Alrighty, turn undead. Let's see how this goes. 35%. Oh, this is... Nice!
Fucking yoinked!
2 out of 3 of them failed. Alrighty then.
You shoved him off the cliff.
Nah, I don't have any more bonus actions, sorry.
So much for peace.
No.
So, alright, I can at least jump here. There we go. And then... Yes! Deal. So we can do a divine strike with poison, but I'm pretty sure it's not gonna work there. Missed.
You kicked me, I swear to God. I'll kill this cunt! I'm gonna kill him!
To put into context, that is the 3rd time now this thing has pushed one of our party members and has succeeded. Alrighty, hang on a second. Hang on. I'm just gonna hit it. There we go, and then hit you.
Take me on.
make it whenever an opponent enters your reach. I can just use this as a reaction because of the fact that I'm in a circle. Ah, damn it. There we go.
Someone bring my daddy back.
Requires an action. I can't do that right now.
He was too good for this world.
I can't throw, I can't shove.
Zombies should strike. You get the railing.
Alrighty, let me help you up. You're no longer sleeping. We've got that archer up there. Where the hunter's mark is a concentration spell, but I'm kind of busy with this existing concentration spell right now.
Never a dull moment.
Alrighty, and then... just don't... Critical miss, nice. Throw that right back at them. You're gonna counterspell that sleep. There are some clear OSHA violations here. The zombies should strike until some railings are put in. Yes, they shouldn't be striking until there's railings, I should say. Oh, you're nearly dead. Nice, 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 nice. Almost there. Gonna head to sleep anyway, but thanks for... Not to worry, kaputs. Alright. Just give yourself a quick level 1 spell. Is this to do more, boom, 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 boom?
Just in case it's needed.
Oh, fuck this. Oh, my concentration's broken!
A little help, please.
Alright.
You guys may want to heal.
Yep, hang on. Where is the big bottle? Here it is. Oh, wait, hang on a second. I can... What do you mean it's too heavy to throw? I'm a giant at this point.
Try me.
There we go.
Apparently it's too heavy to throw.
There we go. Hamstringed.
Let's end this.
Alrighty. What do you have that can be of use?
On I go.
There we go. No longer cloud kill. Thingamadoo. Heal your allies. Increase their hit points maximum by 5. Alright. Oh, you're... Oh, fuck's sake.
Yeah, I'm out of range for that.
There you go. Gonna try turn undead. Let's see how this goes. Hey, one of them turned. Nice. Just don't run into the cloud.
I'm already in the cloud.
Oh, God's sakes. This guy does way too much cloud nonsense.
These boots have seen everything.
There we go.
Close to my limit.
And then... I'm gonna use a key point to give myself a patient defense. And... That's my turn. Alright, use to save on your death roll. Critical miss. Get fucked. Alrighty, I am going to throw a big potion your way. Unless... Is Halcyon gonna be able to help you? Nice. If you can get closer to Halcyon a little bit. There we go. Oh wait, do I have a bigger potion? Nope, that's the biggest I got.
Nice. Good shot.
Alrighty, Misty step to here. Fuck you. Kindly. God damn, his concentration throw is high. Alright, Shadowheart is gonna need a heals.
I can't do anything about that at the moment.
Fair enough.
Best I can do at the moment was heal myself a little bit.
Yeah. Do you want to deal with that Sentinel? Because he's kind of pissing you off. He's pissing me
I'm
off.
gonna deal with him.
The fucker. Uses a fucking cloud right on top of him because he's immune. Asshole. Alrighty.
Yeah, that'll do that.
And then...
Fall by my hand.
He's dealt
Fool.
with.
You think striking down my body will be the end of me?
Worth trying. Alright, both...
Got your shot back up.
Let's finish this.
Alright, cool.
Have to keep going.
Go, more
A little
temporary
help,
hit
please.
points. Alrighty. He's all the way over here.
What have I got in my little bag of tricks?
He's at 12 health. I am on the edge. I have a very high strength roll, but I don't like my chances. Actually, hang on a second.
Choice but to keep going.
Hang on, before I...
Darn it,
Scrolls.
there's nothing around here for me to...
Split. I'm gonna send that to you. Just in case I get pushed off. Alright, what's in your bag of tricks?
Well, I was thinking of summoning, but it doesn't look like I can cast it without there's something being here.
He's immune to control undead. If you kill a creature with a spell, you regain hit points equal to twice the spell slot used, thrice if it's a necromancy spell, undead and constructs unaffected.
No.
Allies within 6 meters are resistant to bludgeoning, slashing, and piercing. Grave magic, whenever you deal with a spell, deal an additional 1d8 necrotic. Resistant to the bludgeoning, slashing, and piercing nonsense. Immune to poison. Hence why he decided to just, you know, blast himself with the cloud thing. Nice.
What's up, bitch?
What's up? Asshole. Fuck you. Circle of Bones. Allied undead within 6 meters are resistant.
I'll feel that one later.
We kind of needed that.
Yep. Summon the Golem Bell. Summons Balthazar's Flesh Golem.
Ooh.
This item is only functional in the Gauntlet of Shar. Okay.
Aww.
Alright, read this. Rambling notes in a spidery, jagged hand fill the volume. They speak of a soul cage, binding the life force of one to that of another. A crude drawing shows two figures side by side. The one on the left appears to have a dagger protruding from his chest, while the one on the right has a corresponding wound in its own chest.
That must be how this whole immunity thing works, or you know.
So it's like the Dragonheart film where she's like, the reason they soul caged her is so then that way, like,
any damage that goes to him goes to her.
well, no, the fact that it's only in one direction.
Breath. A pity it was not my hand that brought it about. Instead, it was you. You, who have come to seek the praise of your wicked goddess. You, who have come to drive a dagger through my heart.
Not a dagger, a spear. My Lady Shah's spear.
Oh yeah, Lady Shah's spear thingamadoog.
Her fate is mine to seal. Let me handle this.
The fate you seal is your own. To be a Dark Justicia is to turn your heart from everything but loss. You will know no love, no joy, only servitude, until of course your mistress inevitably discards you. And there is much she does not tell you. A terrible blood price that may extend beyond my own death.
You feel Shadowheart bristling. This is important to her. You may yet have the chance to dissuade her from doing her duty, but not without risk to your bond. And Nightsong is not blind to your conflict. Behind that raging heart is the restless beat of one who knows too well that her fate hangs in the balance.
So do we want to kill her, or do we want to...
Is this truly what you want?
Of course, why wouldn't it be? This is my purpose.
I'm sorry, I just have Uncle Iroh, like, back when Zuko was before Appa. Because, like, I'm trying to think if there was any... like, a part of... we're missing something. I feel like we're missing something with her.
Well, I mean, we'll find out more a little later on, most likely.
Cannot allow! This is my mistress's will, my life's purpose! If I have to step over your corpse to fulfill what Lady Shah asks of me, so be it. Your choice.
This is wrong, but I can't afford to lose you. Do what you must.
Well, well, well. What's that I sense? A spear intended for my heart? Empowered by your goddess, I. Empowered to kill the child of a god. Do you know what I am, little assassin? For I know you. A lost child. Frightened by wolves in the dark.
What did you say?
Much has been promised to you, hasn't it? But what has been taken from you? What do you know of your own heart? Your own life? I sense more in you than you know.
Whatever you think you know of me won't matter once I become who I'm meant to be.
She's forgotten things. That's the thing, and I'm not too sure if we've... I don't know if we've like chipped away enough for her to be like curious about it.
No, don't kill her!
It said continue. I had no other options. I don't, like... Fuck. This feels wrong. It feels really wrong.
There it is. True death at last. You are Shah's child after all. And I am.
It is done. You have proven yourself. You have answered my highest calling.
What was I missing?
My chosen. My warrior. My dark Justicia. No more hiding. Let me show you. Let all see how you have served me, Shadowheart, and how you have been rewarded. Your pain is now your power. Wield it true.
What the?
My charge must be cleansed. You shall be my instrument in ridding it of the impure. Then you shall take up the mantle as its new leader. First, hunt down the traitor, Ketheric Thorm. He shunned my embrace. He let my armies be slaughtered. He used my domain to safeguard his wretched life. But now, without the Night Song, he's vulnerable. End him. In my name, Shadowheart. Let him see you in your splendor before you shut his eyes forever. Once he is vanquished, Baldur's Gate awaits. Your holy work will continue there, where you first learned of my embrace. Take up my spear again and go forth. Let the cleansing begin.
Did we do something wrong?
Finally! Through me, her will is enacted. Her shadows strengthen and the darkness takes all. I am her chosen.
I feel wrong about this.
I feel wrong about this too. Like, what? Oh no.
Oh shit.
Oh. That's not good.
See, that's why I worried about doing this first.
Yeah.
Now everyone's dead.
Okay.
It's done, Shadowheart.
We received 4 items and 3 quests just suddenly end.
Do we want to maybe go back before we've done this?
I very much do. Yeah. So, campsite. Oh my. Well, good. So, if we ever do go in there, there's going to be a lot of fighting, and we're going to have Shadowheart doing some nonsense.
Feel like dealing with Ketheric Throm in that regards was a bad idea. There's got to be a way for us to do it without losing the last light in.
Yeah. Like, I feel like the Night Song is important to us, is the thing. Like, and then we just had fucking... What am I like...
If we can maybe keep the Night Song alive?
Like, what am I missing with Shadowheart? Hang on a second.
These lands may not be under the thrall of Lady Shah for much longer. No matter. She wishes for Ketheric Thorm to be punished.
How far back are
Her
we?
darkness was a blessing offered before he betrayed her. She can redirect her powers elsewhere once he is cast down.
What do you know of him?
Say. A fellow servant of the Night Singer would surely
Also,
be an
double check the
ally for
journal
normal
log just to confirm that, like, this camp save
Something
is
doesn't
prior
add up.
to all that nonsense.
I'll need to see where his allegiance is.
Because I don't like...
Shadow Curse. Reuniting, yeah, so reuniting Oliver and Thaniel isn't enough. Ketheric Throm, the anchor of the curse. For the land to heal, he must be defeated.
Everything, potentially.
The only
There
issue
is scarcely a
Ketheric
greater way
Throm,
to fully
so there
dedicate
is
yourself
also
to Lady
here,
Shah, save perhaps if you become the head of her church. To become a Dark Justiciar is to become the Night Singer's sword arm.
Find the Night Song.
Her implement with
Yeah,
which she
but
will cast
to
down
find
the
them,
unbelievers
we need to go
and
through the
win
gauntlet.
The final battle to restore her perfect.
And then, which
endless
requires us to
darkness.
use Shadowheart.
It's all I ever wanted. I prayed it was my
There's
calling.
got to be a way of stopping Shadowheart
But Mother
from... 'cause
forbid
there
me
were
from
things
seeking
that
to
came
prove
up,
myself
persuasions and all
worthy
that,
of the
but For
rank.
some reason, they didn't come up on you.
She said I was not ready. Not my mother,
We could
mother,
redo
I should add.
that fight and then...
The
See if
Mother
there's
Superior.
other options,
Head of
yeah.
Lady Shah's enclave in Baldur's Gate. Sometimes I wonder if she would ever deem me ready. I owe her
redo that
everything,
fight.
and I
Final
only
options,
wish
and
to
then I'm
serve,
gonna call it.
yet she can prove.
Unless you want to call it here
Inscrutable.
and then we'll redo the fight.
If you collect Noble from the Bibble while rescuing the mushroom, you can convince... Noble stock. Do you know what that is?
No. Hang on, let me have a look.
I don't know. Perhaps if I succeed in my mission and reach Baldur's Gate. Hope has little place amongst Lady Shah's children. It's an illusion, a distraction. But for this, I hope my time will yet come. Dark Justiciars are hated by many, judged to be ruthless fanatics. Even the few who would accept a follower of Lady Shah would likely balk at a Justiciar in their midst. But there's a simpler answer to your question. I simply forgot about the desire I had until I saw some things that reminded me. Now, I can't get it out of my mind.
Fine. What's on your mind?
I don't think I've ever had a confidant quite like you. And if I have, I can't remember them. On one hand, they seem useful. I never expected ceramorphosis to be tempting. I think we should resist these powers. They're simply... It's been known to happen.
What if we left the spear here in camp?
No, I don't think that will do... Sorry, I'm just... Hang on, let me look at a guide. Find Zelvor, find Maul, and lift the Shadow Curse cannot be completed yet, so don't worry if these are the only ones you have left in the region. So we still need to rescue Wilbird. Tieflings.
Yeah, I reckon the others have all gone to the,
Okay, because it mentions... So, like, one of the, it's like, oh, as you travel, there are numerous events that can trigger special conversations or opportunities. We've listed some of the most prominent here. So, if you collect the Noble Stock from the Bibber Bang Field while rescuing the Mushroom Picker, you can convince Shadowheart to eat it. This will partially restore her memories, and she'll remember a childhood friend. I'm wondering... Because that's in the Shadowlands, right?
we still have access to that at the moment.
Yeah, the Myconoid colony would be the closest, but hang on. Do we have Night Stalk in any of our thingamadooks?
Not that I've seen.
Black, Weaven, Shadow. If we collect a Night Orchard while exploring the Shadow Cursed lands, it allows us to give it to Shadowheart as a gift. Alright, let's... Hang on. Dink, dunk. Alright, I'm gonna head over to the Myconoid colony.
I cannot venture back with you. Now that I'm in a position to fight the curse, I must stay here and see it through.
Very well.
Very well.
Venture forth? Yes.
I will need to grab someone too.
We're just going in to pick up a... Like, we're literally just picking up something. It's a fetch. We'll be good with one less. Okay. Unless there's a companion you think that might benefit from
No, I don't think so.
Alrighty then. Save Arabelle.
Unless you were
save
wanting me to grab, unless you're
refugees.
wanting me to grab your mommy and bring her with us.
That would be nice.
Mm.
The Dead 3, Ball, Bane, and... Oh, I did miss that. Just a quick in and out, 20 minutes top more. Let's go, in and out, 20-minute adventure.
Off of what they're saying, but at least they're peaceful.
An entire village if seeded properly.
Alrighty, so the exploding fields were... where am I going,
I don't know. Where's your mummy? I'll grab her.
Go grab her.
Thanks, boss. We'll be looking a lot more.
Oh, why is Karlak with me? Oh, you need to get Shadowheart.
Oh, okay. I'll grab Shot then.
Yeah.
70 years of terror. For what?
Come here, Shart.
Forward, Nightlight Front, back with the...
Something the matter?
All right.
Nice. Alright,
Oh,
I'm
she
just gonna...
leveled up.
We'll be clearing out soon. You come across a noble stock mushroom about, you give it here. Gods know we've a
did
shop in
strength and
Boulder's Gate.
wisdom for her,
The
so
look,
I'll put that back
probably.
in.
I know him better than anyone.
Alrighty then, so... They're still wanting the noble thingamadoog, which should be somewhere down there with all the fucking mist.
Alright, whereabouts we going? I'm following you.
To go down here. Hurton Durkin is pointing at something. I like that I now turned on the... I can see the ping system. It's like just seeing all that nonsense. Alright, Chasm
Wait for
Creeper.
me, I'm catching up.
Not to worry, not to worry. I need a... Alright.
Can't risk being in open view. Time to press ahead.
Alright. So...
Wait for me, I have little legs!
I'm a dwarf. You should be fine. Alright, there's Balin's pack. Bibberbang. More Bibberbangs. Can we not get more because of the whole, like, lighting them all up on fire?
No. Is there something specific we're looking for here?
Oh.
I just rolled survival and failed that.
Right here?
Yeah. Like across over here.
Alright, hang on. I'm gonna save. Here.
Like I walked across this way and
Swift as my feet can carry me.
Okay,
by Valen's pack. So what's the item called?
A noble stock. Where to find noble stock? There's only one mushroom, and there are 3 people who can use it. Oh, wow. Aren't exactly sure, but it's important for completing. People are looking for... Find in a very hazardous area. In order to find Balin near the Sussar tree... Yep, throw Balin... That will get him out of the area like Misty Step. Use Mage Hand to pick up Balin's bag. Drag it to him. He has a scroll inside that will help him. Use Misty Step or Teleportation to get to Balin's... whenever this will be mixed in with a bit, so want to avoid setting off until they can get a hold of the priceless mushroom.
Yes.
Motherfucker. So...
We've lost our chance with that.
Motherfucker. Because, yeah, it would be somewhere... It's in hand. There are several that can use it. It's useful. Heals character uses, but there are 40...
Bring Karlak over here and see if she can do that survival check.
Well, well, well.
Yeah, I did quick save earlier. I wonder if I need to scroll back a long way to find... No, nothing.
That's weird. Why did I roll for a survival check then? Well, we've missed our chance at it then.
Yeah, okay. It was one of the things that could happen. The only other thing we can do is find a night orchard while exploring the Shadowlands.
Alright, where's the night orchard?
Alright, where to find the night orchard? Over... Hang on a second. Press M. I'm gonna head to... It looks to be near the shadowed battlefield.
Really hope we don't get a cutscene of something fucking up because we left the area and came back.
Yep.
If we do, I blame you.
Jump over to the small platform on the left. You'll find the night orchard sitting in the corner. Turn to your, select the option you remember when you... Okay, so it was near the area where we had the hide and seek quest. We're doing all this so we don't kill the Night Song. Alright, hang on. Alright.
Also, Grant?
Yeah?
Do you like sticky things?
That feels like a loaded question. What are you on about? God damn you!
Oh, there you go. Is that what you were looking for?
Oh, market?
No, you just picked it up.
It was a black Ona thingy-madoog, sorry.
Oh.
Oh, we got like 3 scrolls from it. I think it was talking about something here. Yep, there it is, Night Orchard. Alright, so I just need to jump here. And then pick up this Night Orchard. There we go.
Alright, now we give it to her.
Yeah, back in camp.
Alright.
That's
well,
it.
I've got Shadowheart on me, so...
Yeah, I'll be able to talk to her when we're in camp. Sorry, I'm just exploring a little bit to see if there's any other side questy nonsense.
Okay, Drogar... Mazel...
So yeah, because we're basically, what's-a-mahoozy freed.
Dead cultists.
Dead Harpers. Oh, failed a perception check. Oh boy.
Now this is my happy place. Fuck
Well,
yes.
Well, I'm not in a good position here.
Yeah, I figured. Oh my gosh, she's all the way after all these shadow cursed needlebracks. The fuck is this place?
Fuck's sake, you dumb cunt.
A shambling mound is 150. Okay, hang on a second. What's the fire resistance and necrotic, lightning immunity, cold resistance? Oh, that's annoying. What about this guy? Necrotic resistance. Seriously, no weakness, you guys? Alright, just a lot of necrotic nonsense. Fuck you, Nichols.
Ooh, that hurt, you bum.
It did, just a bit.
You know, they're kind of all in one spot. It would be a real shame if someone were to, I don't know, throw a void ball to move more than one spot and get fireballed.
Oh, man.
Wink, nudge, nudge.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Alright, let's see what happens.
It's close at hand.
Alright, just need to deal with these 2 gremlins.
Oh, no. Get Carlight to take it from your body and all, and then move them to at least around here.
It'll invoke an attack of opportunity.
Really, because I can't move, it won't let me do it.
That's annoying. Well, the annoying part is I cannot do much with her.
I was hoping to try and set the vines on fire, but that didn't work.
Yeah, these things are weirdies.
Ooh, good misses on that one.
Yep. Oh.
Alright, now she can move. Yeah, moving earlier would have been lovely, darling, but you know.
Alrighty. You're gonna try and...
No, I'm too far in the way for that.
Alrighty then. Darn. Sorry for running into that.
So you should be.
Ah.
Oh, I can't leave you alone for 5 minutes without you doing something dumb.
No, you can't. You can't.
You bastard!
Oh, damn it.
Oh, you're a cunt. And you're dead.
Oh. Shit. Oh, that means I lose out on the, Lathar's thingy-madoo. God damn it. Not the Lathar, the Whatsamahoozy's, love thing.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Alright, what do we want to do? Grant?
I'm thinking. Oh, damn it, she has, like, she can't do anything. For fuck's sake. Safe scum. That way we can still get the thingamadoogie without having to deal with, you know, all this shit.
All of this shit?
All of this shit.
God, how can we deal with all of this shit?
Hmm.
I think school holidays will start soon.
Oh no.
That means I gotta put up with shithole kids and their fucking parents. Carefully now.
Wait, why can I...
Something the matter?
Oh, sorry, didn't mean to talk to her.
Actually, what is her, Hang on, is there a way for me to check her stats? Okay, my approval is fair. Yours is neutral with her. They have no strong feelings.
Yay!
No strong feelings to the cultist lady. Alright. Scroll back down to the shadowed battlefield. Because we can't find the mushroom here because the thingy-majiggies exploded and all that kind of shit.
Yeah, because I blew it up. What? We wanted to see what would happen.
We did want to see what would happen, and we didn't know that the noble stock was going to be like a one-time thing either. Like, there was nothing we would have known other than the fact of, oh, if we were interested in grabbing it then in the first place. But we weren't interested in grabbing it then in the first place, but yeah. Excuse me.
Oh, we're off to see the blizzard, the wonderful blizzard of laws.
I've got a long road ahead.
Alrighty, so here. So I do the jump
Yep,
here.
there.
And then there's the night orchard. And then nothing in the pouch. Alright.
Where can I go?
These land, no matter. She wishes for Ketheric Thorm to be punished. Her darkness was a blessing.
No. Leave. Dismiss her from the party if you have to.
That's what I'm
once he's
doing.
cast
That's what I'm
down.
doing.
If you're sure. Fine.
I was dismissing her so I could get Daddy. Because I know you want to talk to her.
Yep. So there's Lazo and Shadowheart.
Plus, we need the better healer anyway.
Oakfather preserve you. Then you'll have me.
I need you by my side. Then you'll
Shah's
have
blessings
me.
upon you. Rings a bell? Why? Oh, hells. You didn't pick that by hand, did you? They're deadly poisonous. Joking. They're safe.
She's just...
And
joking.
Thank you. I don't have anything to give you in return, I'm afraid.
I'm sure you'll come up with something in time.
We'll see. Give me a while to put my imagination to work.
Fine. What's on your mind?
Does it even need to be asked? We're beyond me merely liking you. I think I'm a different person.
Okay,